Welcome, ladies and gents, to the Texture Pop Podcast on professionalism at its finest. I am your current host, Brandon Lee Carey. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, Samuel Callahan,
Hey everybody.
and my other partner in crime, Chris Atari.
The only hope Donald Trump gives me is that perhaps he's Andy Kaufman's greatest prank ever.
Relevant and topical. But as you may not know, this is not a political podcast. This is, in fact, our E3 podcast.
Fuck, really?
Yep,
Fortunately.
you're boned. I always think we should have Chris just filibuster us and just tell us all about E3 from his perspective.
Some dudes got up on a stage,
Uh-huh.
showed a bunch of cinematic trailers that had no gameplay, and told us about, all these great new features that nobody asked for.
Well, that sucks, because all my notes say there was a lot of gameplay.
Oh, fuck.
Well then, fuck! One of us fucked up! We gotta watch E3 again. Whole thing, start to front.
Well, I'll be the tiebreaker in this debate.
Ugh.
For the sake of our sanity, we are just going to go through the press conferences in the order that they happened chronologically, starting with Bethesda and ending with Square Enix, even though I'm the only one that actually watched that particular press conference out of the three of us.
I didn't watch the conference, but I watched all the gameplay, or all the trailers and gameplay they showed.
All right, that should be enough.
I couldn't find a reel of the entire conference.
I didn't watch a damn thing. I'm looking this up as we go.
Let's see what I've got, just so people know. I've watched all of Bethesda, and keep in mind, today I watched all of this. Bethesda, Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, half of Sony, and Square Enix. So I've not seen Nintendo, the other half of Sony, and the missing one.
I saw all of these as they were happening. I live tweeted the entire event.
Yeah, I know, because I basically quit Twitter a couple days.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You either have to be right in the thick of it or to ignore Twitter for the entirety of E3. There is no middle ground there.
Yep, there's no enjoying your life while E3 is going on, because that's all people want to talk about.
Speaking of E3, let's start with the one that came first, Bethesda, who have their very first E3 press conference ever this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one all to themselves.
Yeah.
Todd Howard did show up for Microsoft to re-demo a couple of things.
And we'll get into that later. But first, they began by showing Doom.
They showed 3 more seconds of Doom.
Which
Total of 7 seconds.
Yeah, which I guess I shouldn't be too shocked about, considering, I mean, they did a bang-up fucking job with Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was Machine Games in Bethesda. Is this Bethesda internally, or is this also Machine Games? Or is it id? Like, that's what I don't remember seeing any development.
It was id.
Okay, so it is probably...
The guy who was showing off was from id.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Romero, I don't think. I don't remember seeing him up there. Must have been someone else.
No,
anyway,
it was some other guy.
So, jokes aside, they did actually show, like, actual Doom gameplay.
The only thing that really stood out to me was that there is a map editor that comes with the game.
Yeah, what do they call it? Snap Map.
Aside from that, it looked pretty much like a Doom game.
Yeah, this one I have basically no notes on because I forgot to do this when I first watched it. I think that the id Tech engine has definitely really come into its own since the days of Rage, as far as just, like, looking really good. And all this year I saw some really amazing particle effects going on, and, like, lighting and such. The couple of things I am worried about, one of them is that they definitely talk about Doom movement speed, and it definitely seemed like you could run at a pretty decent clip. But I have to wonder if they had to tweak that a whole bunch, because if you ran at the actual, like, 90 miles an hour with that kind of graphics, with any kind of motion blur, you would be incredibly sick.
I mean, some of the screenshots I'm looking at, I can't tell whether or not if this is going to be as dark or not as dark as Doom 3 was.
Well, do you mean stylistically or, like, literally?
Like, literally.
It does not look like that dark at all, honestly.
There was no flashlight shown during the game that I can remember, unless there was, like a chest-mounted one.
Yeah, you're not running around the whole time with the lights off. Like,
no. And there didn't seem to be any, like, quote-unquote monster closets either. It seemed very much just... It seemed kind of like...
It's a shooter.
Old Doom, where it's like you run up to a horde of dudes and then you shoot them. Except there's some new execution moves, where if you damage them enough, you can do an execution that seems to pop out more health and ammo.
That reminds me of that fucking Doom 2 mod. Like, somebody...
Was that Brutal Doom?
Yeah, Brutal Doom.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
Yeah. I'm definitely curious about that, but I wonder, because during the demo they already showed a couple of executions over and over, so I wonder how repetitive that'll get.
I imagine fairly quickly, if I'm being honest. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. And if that's what you do to get bonus health and items, that could be really bad.
But after Doom, because I think we've talked about that enough for now, they showed a trailer for a game that I'm really looking forward to, which is Dishonored 2.
Yeah. You play as Corvo's daughter, not daughter. I never finished first Dishonored.
It's implied that he's the father, but it's never confirmed.
So
But
is
you
the
can
state
play
of the world
as her or Corvo. You can choose either one. You don't have to be you don't have to be Emily if you don't want to. But I'm going to be Emily.
Yeah, I think I saw people saying that she has different powers than Corvo, who
Yeah,
will probably
they-
return with most of his
They
same
said
powers.
that Corvo and Emily will share none of the same powers. They will have
Yeah,
completely
'cause-
different power sets.
I love the description of this here, where it just says like, you can play as the original protagonist Corvo Itano and his ward Emily Caldwell. Like she's fucking Robin.
Robin.
Like,
So it's funny because they say that shares no powers, but didn't she have the time slow ability that Corvo had? Or are they, I guess, implying that he won't have that in this one?
I don't think I saw a time slow. I had to rewatch the trailer because it's actually been
It was
a
a time
few
slow or
days.
time stop or something.
it
'Cause
almost like
she did that and then shot an arrow at one of the dude's faces and then.
Because I
froze
remember
time.
most vividly the tether that she had she has as compared to Blink.
Well,
Like she won't have Blink. She'll have this little tether that she can use to kind of grapple onto things.
The time slow thing was like when she showed up at the door with the dude who was
Yeah,
like, "Oh, you're
yeah,
the
I know what
assassin."
you're talking about now.
Yeah.
I
I
am
do
kind of
wonder.
interested in that idea of you have these two dynamic characters that have different play styles. You know, hopefully it's not too much of, well, we took this guy from the first game and we kind of divvied all his powers up between two people.
Yeah, I do
The
wonder
way
though,
they
like,
the way they worded it is that they seem to have wanted to Emily to be like the real protagonist, but Corvo's kind of there for people who liked him in the first game, which I didn't actually form a strong enough opinion of him one way or the other in the first game, so I don't actually give a shit about him.
I do wonder is that assuming that Corvo has like say the time stop, which was the upgraded version in the first game, and she has a slow, and he has blink, and she has a tether that functions like that. They say they're different abilities, but are they just like visually different with some very slight differences in gameplay?
I can
Yeah, it
imagine
does
the
make you
tether in particular being a lot different than Blink. A lot different if they know what they're doing with it.
I guess it depends on how it functions. Like if it functions the same, even if it has different applications, like tethering enemies or whatever, then that's still not radically different. It's different, but it's not like they're completely different characters. They're just kind of like alternatives.
And apparently have their own different animations too, so it's not like she's just a female Corvo. She has her own style of like how to fight. It's something we'll have to actually see more of before we pass judgment. But it's definitely something I'm looking forward to.
Also, I got some hot news from my friend Nick from the field. He says, American Truck Simulator announced potential game of the year.
Ooh, shit!
Yeah.
Get hype!
And he does have some other news that I'll bring up when we get to Microsoft.
Following Dishonored 2, they talked about Elder Scrolls Online, and I honestly kind of tuned out at this point because I don't give a shit about Elder Scrolls Online.
You know, I was going to make a joke that I totally paid attention, but I don't remember a damn thing about what that expansion's doing.
I know.
I don't remember if it's free for anybody or anything like that.
I
It's so
imagine
fucking hard to
it's-
care.
I paid attention to the Old Republic stuff later on, but that was because the trailer was really well done. I don't remember anything about Tamriel Unlimited.
Usually when it comes to expansions, it's gonna be like, you know, hey, if you subscribe, you get this shit. If not, you gotta buy it. 'Cause we gotta make money off this shit somehow.
But since
Well-
since that's not really much to talk about, let's move
Yeah.
on to the thing that they spent the most time talking about during their conference, which was Fallout 4, which is
Oh,
now
I thought you were
official.
gonna make it. I
Now
thought you were
we're-
gonna say the Elder Scrolls card game.
now officially
Yep.
confirmed.
We're gonna talk. They talk about Fallout Shelter, the mobile game, for 3 hours.
Yeah, that
The Fallout
Fallout
4.
4.
There's a lot of stuff with Fallout 4 that's new.
The
Like-
thing that interested me the most when I saw it was the fact that the character now has a voice,
Yeah,
like Shepard does in Mass Effect. And they're even doing the BioWare style dialogue wheel, which kind of concerns me if I'm being totally honest with you.
I was actually going to say that's actually not like that in the sense that it doesn't say what kind of emotion or tone you're going for, which I
Yeah.
hated in Dragon Age.
Yeah,
Because
I've always
when
thought
like
that
in
was
Dragon Age
stupid.
2, it's always do you want to be good or you want to be bad. Therefore, that's the only choice you can make.
Yeah,
Like there was
Just-
no middle ground.
just say the straight dialogue, man. Just
Yeah. So it is definitely a bit worrying in that it seems at most you have 4 options, whereas in Fallout you could have, like 10 different options of just like, asking people about stuff.
the big thing to me, of course, obviously, because people raise such a fucking shit fit about how ugly the graphics looks in the trailer. Like some of the screenshots I'm looking at, it looks like
I wouldn't say it's like the best looking thing ever. I would argue it's one of the worst looking games I saw at E3, but that's not saying much. Like, it still
It looks like
it
a
looks
Fallout
great.
game should look.
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, we've come into that era of really soft lighting and soft textures, and it's really, I say that a lot, and it's hard to explain. But if you say look at like The Witcher 2 and how that stuff looks, or like Uncharted 2 in that era compared to now, everything just looks really soft. It's hard to explain. It's kind of like layering.
Did you
effects,
guys
but
notice how the Pit Boy stuff was has animated in the
Yeah.
trailer?
that's a really nice touch. And apparently you can use your smartphone as a Pip-Boy.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a Pit Boy smartphone app that is going to be companion app to the game, because the collector's edition of this game will have a Pit Boy that you can
put
like
your
place
smartphone
your
in.
phone in and like actually be the
Oh,
Fallout Pit
damn
Boy.
it.
That sounds really cool, but I do wonder, because they showed an iPhone 6, so it's like, so what if you have A, an iPhone 5 or a 6 Plus, which are two different sizes, B, any Android phone whatsoever? Is it like, it's a Pip-Boy Flare Edition, only compatible with the iPhone 6?
Well, you know how the Fallout Shelter Gap is currently an iOS game, which we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
They've confirmed that that's also going to be. They're also making an Android version of that right now that they're trying to get as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying like compatibility
Yeah.
thing, but it's like, how will that slot into it? Like, say I have a Nexus 6, it's like a 6-inch screen on that phone.
Oh, you mean like fitting
like,
into
it
the
just
actual
will not
Pit Boy?
fit in that thing. So that's gonna be kind of the bummer, is that people got so stoked, and it's like, how many people in that audience own the exact phone size you probably need to fit in that
Yeah.
Pip-Boy?
I would wonder if they made some sort of one size fits all kind of thing that they could do.
Well, if you look at it, they have a carved out area for the screen, so it can only go so big.
Of course, my question with this thing is that, you know, obviously that's going to sound nerd cool for the people that really love that kind of shit. But when you use the word companion app, that's what scares me. So, am I going to run into some bullshit that if I
You
don't
don't
have this
need
app
it.
on my
No.
phone,
You
yeah.
don't need it. No, it's
just
literally
the
just-
Pip-Boy.
Okay.
It's really
That's
just you put the Pip Boy menu on your smartphone. If you don't want to do that, you can just use the Pip Boy menu in the game and you're fine.
Okay, that's how it should
Yeah.
be.
It'll be like old Fallout in that case.
Good.
Apparently, if you have it on your phone, like connected to your wrist or whatever, it actually moves your hand in real time. So if you kind of like twist your arm, it'll twist it on screen.
But it's not something that's central to your experience. It's like a little neat little extra that you can
Yeah.
I
have.
mean, if it'll work
It's
on my
Fallout.
motherfucking phone, then I might try it, so.
Yeah. Oh god. So Fallout 4, the voice protagonist, it could be interesting. It definitely means a lot less dialogue options. But
I'm also
God,
not
there's
looking forward to Bethesda style writing.
yeah.
We all know that the female protagonist will be the true one, then. That's.
Yep.
Especially if she's voiced by
Jennifer Hale's
Yeah.
Hale.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Oh, and they revealed the story. Like once you begin the game, you see this couple, the man and woman, and you can customize them both. You choose one of them to be your protagonist, and the other one will die along with your child.
So there was some speculation going on that instead of that the child will actually be the composite of the two characters,
It
which I
is.
doubt.
They said that they're going to make a child based on the
Oh,
faces
so when
you
you say
made.
your protagonist, you just mean it'll be that sex. So if you choose a male, no matter what you make either of them look like, it will be a male, definitively. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're only
I
using,
just-
it's kind of like
You're
Grand
choosing
Theft
one of
Auto-
the two of the people you made customized to be your protagonist for the story.
Yeah, like Grand Theft Auto 5 actually did something
Yeah,
like
that
that,
was
the
the-
online version.
That was the first thing I thought of. I was like, and I did
Yeah.
not like that shit at all. Like,
I think it was with a later update, they allowed you to just tweak everything individually. Like, you could basically choose your parenthood, and then you could be like, and then you could just change everything. It's just
Yeah.
like a preset.
So the thing is that you are actually a couple before the bombs hit.
Okay.
And then you come into the vault, then you go into the vault, and then you wake up 200 years later. And
you
the
get a
world is
dog.
completely different.
Get a dog called Dog Meat. Not joking.
Well, dog
God,
meets a
so
recurring
when
character.
you say they fucking what? They went to cryo sleep or something? Like,
That's
They
what
did-
everybody's been
they
saying, but they only say events transpire was the way that Todd Howard mentioned it every time.
Yeah, they didn't actually say it.
So, something equivalent. God, there's a couple other things. I guess the other big thing is that there's now a sort of pseudo-strategy base-building element to the game,
yeah, I'm seeing some of that.
where
Like,
you can collect resources from stuff, and you can basically build a base,
You can
and-
also use resources to mod your own weapons.
and armor. It seems like the base building, I kind of wondered about the reason for that. I guess part of it would just be a player home to store stuff, but I would assume that you could probably also grow gardens for like food, or you could probably have people go out and
Yeah,
harvest resources for
It's supposed to be
you.
like a settlement that people come to gradually over time.
Like I kind of see that as almost like a way that they're tapping into like how survival games have taken off in the last couple of years
Yeah.
and kind of incorporating that into this, which doesn't seem like a bad idea, but I wonder how that's going to affect the experience overall. Like,
Yeah, I wonder like if it's going to be necessary for the story, or if it will trigger different kinds of endings. Like, how vital is it to the entire game? I want to say Todd said it's not at all necessary, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
I'm pretty-
Todd Howard was really trying to express the fact that Fallout is a game where whatever you do, you can do what you want, and you don't have to do what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So he's already started, like, if you don't want to do the main quest, you can just forget about it the moment you walk out of the vault, and then just do what
Well,
you
yeah,
want.
but I just mean like
Yeah.
I believe he specifically stated as far as the settlement stuff, you don't have to do that
Yeah.
for the game. Which would probably be important because I'm sure some people have no interest in that kind of thing. I would
Yeah.
probably play with it for like a couple hours and then be like, I'm good.
I'm okay. I'm okay with building bases. I like that kind of stuff.
So, anything else about Fallout 4?
They also talked about the Fallout Shelter iOS game, which we kind of alluded to, but we didn't really go into detail on.
It's Fallout on
Basically,
your iPhone.
you are the overseer of a vault, and you get to choose the number of the vault when you start the game, and you basically run the vault like a management sim.
It's a trying to think of something equivalent. It's a 2D style to it, and you basically build rooms.
It's like the base building in XCOM.
XCOM
Yeah,
is what people
like-
described it like.
yeah, a lot of the graphics and stuff, like all the people look like the kind of Art Deco-esque like characters,
Yeah.
like the mascot, like all the people.
The
Just look like
backgrounds
that.
are all like 3-dimensional. Looks like low-res Fallout, but all the characters have that Pip-Boy look, basically.
Yeah.
And when someone has a baby, you're the overseer. You get to choose their name.
Yeah, so I heard a funny thing from a friend of mine, Brian, who was playing the game like the second it came out, and a few hours later he made a comment where he was like, "So I'm getting a lot of girls in my vault, and I'm getting concerned because there are no more males." And I was like, "So is that a way for the game to end? Just be like, you can't repopulate anymore."
Well, no,
The
now it's
end.
time to start polygamy. So
And
know,
one man needs to fuck a lot of women.
Just one man, 57 women in this vault.
Sorry, Sam, but you gotta get to work. We need some children.
Nope, I'll just go out to the wasteland instead. It does look interesting, but like, I do have an iPhone sitting on my desk. I just haven't bothered to boot it up or whatever because I don't know. It's not my kind of thing. I'll probably try it out for next week just to discuss it.
yeah, maybe.
Looks like Fallout. That was in Bethesda.
So let's move on to Microsoft, which started the day afterwards.
So I don't think they mentioned this in the press conference, but one big thing I've been hearing is that they're introducing backwards compatibility to the Xbone.
That was
That
part
was
of the press
during the conference.
Okay.
I made a
Yeah.
note about that.
So, yeah, so now you can play 360 games on your Xbone.
I have some written things down about that. Do we want to wait on that or just go ahead and discuss
Go
it?
ahead, let's do it now. Why?
Yeah,
why?
So my main concern is that the way they had phrased it, where they said we'll be adding game, we start off with 100 or so, and we'll be adding games, makes me wonder that even if you have the physical disc, because you have to download the game, it might be the case where it's like, say I own, Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2, and it's not in their digital library, you probably can't play that on your Xbox One.
Yeah,
They did express say you could do either physical or the digital version of those games.
But they don't say, because you have to download the game, when you
Yeah,
put in
like-
the disc, you download it. So assuming they don't have that on their
Oh,
servers,
I
you
see
probably
what you're
can't play
saying.
it.
You're
But
afraid
which-
that it's not the
I
playing
don't
game
think
on
it's
the
just
disc.
it
It's
reads
you.
the disc because it doesn't have the
They
hardware for
acknowledge
that.
you on the disc, and now you can download the free copy of the game onto your Xbox
Yeah.
One.
like
Also,
it's-
how easy is it to
yeah.
just like pirate games? I'm assuming that if you have a physical copy, you probably need the disc inside the system.
Probably.
So but if I put in like a licensed game like Deadpool, is it gonna say no? Fuck you. We don't have the rights to that anymore. Like
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying is that because they had stated they'll be adding more, it makes me think that it's only like, say, Mass Effect was the one they demoed. It's like, yes, if you own Mass
Yeah.
Effect, you can play it. But if I bust out Asura's Wrath, it's like, sorry, that's not in our vault. You can't play it on your Xbox One.
that, and
That's
like,
my guess.
Yeah, and the way I know about this mostly because there was like a Major Nelson thing on the dashboard, and I looked at it, and he's talking about like they put a virtual version of the Xbox 360 dashboard on your Xbox One that you can access, and it acts like an app, and then it's emulating the games, which again, emulation is always tricky, and
Yeah, it
that's
sounds
Yeah.
basically exactly what the PS3's been doing with PS Now, where it just emulates the
Yeah.
cross-media bar and all that.
Yeah.
But they did say during the conference that it allows for all the Xbox One features like game DVR. You can take screenshots. It has all the party features. You can crossplay between 360 and Xbox One players. So, and they did say it performs, generally games perform better, but when I was looking at Mass Effect, it still looked like it ran like total garbage. Which sounds about right for the first Mass Effect on 360.
Yeah.
Better might just be like loading. It might not mean like, hey, the frame rate's better, because even though it's built like a PC, the games weren't designed like PC games where you
Yeah.
can just put in more raw power for better frame rate.
Remember how in the first game you can install the whole thing onto the hard drive and the elevators would take longer?
I forgot about that.
Anyway, let's the actual
Yeah.
conference started with Halo 5 and I got
Guardians.
nothing. I got nothing.
I
guys.
wrote a couple of notes. This is probably the most notes I wrote.
I honestly couldn't care any less.
So I guess I could probably just read my notes verbatim. I don't think I wrote anything stupid in here.
All I wrote is Nathan Fillion is in it.
So I wrote, the Gone Rogue story finds me a little nonplussed. I'm not sure if that's the correct use of that phrase. I was meaning to replace that. It's not a very good trope because 90% of the time they're still working towards the same objective as everyone else, they being the protagonist and everyone else. They just go about it in a different way. In short, it's boring. So the idea is that with Halo 5, Master Chief has gone on his own. He has like his own squad. And then you have the Spartan Lock Squad, which is the one they showed with the demo. But like I said, the Gone Rogue story, it's just so easy because it's like it's just two different groups doing the same thing. It's just one of them doesn't play by the rules anymore. Like, it's ridiculous. It's kind of dumb for Halo, which has always had pretty good storytelling.
Me is that the Covenant are still bad guys in this game for some reason.
Yeah,
Probably because the Prometheus were hated as a new enemy type. I wrote that in my notes. That
I mean,
the Prometheus
yes.
aliens still look incredibly boring to me. It lacks a lot of the style the Covenant had.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, I believe by now in Halo lore, we've established the
Halo
Covenant are
3.
not bad people. They're just
No.
misguided.
I mean, when it comes to
My guess is they're going to say Splinter Faction,
Yeah.
which I believe existed in Halo 3 or something like
Yeah.
that.
A rogue cell
and-
of Cerberus. Sure,
and
why not?
when it comes to
Ultramaximus.
like the Prometheans, of course, like the only cool shit we got out of that was the weapons. I'll admit, the first time you pick up one of those weird ass guns and it kind of snaps together, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of rad, but
Yeah, let's see what else I wrote. I did say that since the days of like Halo Reach, the sprinting still looks very weird. Like the speed of the animation doesn't match the speed of the movement. It looks like you're running. It looks like you should be running at like twice the speed. I wrote kept down a lot of weird notes. Like the pointing mechanic they demonstrate where it says like, oh, look at this, or enemy over there. I'm assuming that is for single player Brothers in Arms style, where you basically can tell your AI what to focus on.
yeah.
I wrote down about the aliens, and I just say Halo 5 looks a decent bit better than 4, but I can't say that I'm all that excited. I feel it was all downhill after 2, even though Reach was pretty fantastic.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Them's
I also,
fighting words, my friend.
yeah. 2, man. So they also, a bit later on, they talked about Halo multiplayer, and they demoed a new thing called Warzone, and I wrote down, Halo multiplayer having AI combat sounds like Titanfall. It's a good move, though, helps combat
Ooh.
always feel engaging. I don't mean that in a diminutive way, because there's another game later on that features that exact same mechanic. That was one of the greatest things that Titanfall did, was the idea of AI minions basically means that no matter what, you're always engaged. You're doing something.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
it seems to factor in the same way where it's like, I believe it's a point counter, so you know, like, the regular AI will probably give you like 1-2 points, and player kills will give you like 5 to 10, which would be Titanfall.
So like in my big thing, especially with like the story, this idea that Master Chief gets like a squad of dudes with him, hope to God that they're better characters at least, because obviously that was the thing that stuck out about Reach, because here was the first Halo game that had, well, actually I can't say that. I did like some of the characters from ODST, but
Eh.
here was a Halo game that had Spartans we can give a shit about.
Nathan Fillion's back from ODST.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
I think it was, what was it, Kat was the woman from Reach who had the robotic arm?
I don't know.
I think that was her name. I just remember she was awesome. Like, I kind of missed that. And I can't remember the other, I have like these vague ideas for names. It was like Kat, like Jugo or something like that was the sniper guy.
Sure.
They have weird names, but one of them had like a skull on his mask. They were interesting characters, though.
But does anyone else have anything to say about Halo 5?
I'm certainly interested, and I'm really curious to see how it plays on the Xbox One. I did
Hope
notice
to
he
God
doesn't.
the multiplayer works.
I guess the thing is I noticed it didn't look all that great, but I guess Halo's never really tried to look incredible. It's
Not
always just been
really.
like, it looks good enough, and ideally, if it still runs at 60 frames per second, that's all I care about.
Does shit look shiny? Okay.
Yeah,
So
looks very shiny.
the next thing they announced at the conference was Recore. It's a new IP that they are developing. I didn't catch who was developing it.
Recore, so it's got a post-apocalyptic vibe about a girl with a companion that at first is a dog, and she's going through like some kind of desert, with, like
Yeah.
dust storms coming through.
A robo dog, to be specific.
Sure. And then yes, it's a robot. And then she goes into some sort of cave and gets attacked by these other robot creatures, and the dog blows himself up. So she takes the core of the dog and puts it in a giant robot that kind of looks like Dog from Half-Life 2.
It's Record.
Yeah.
Ah,
This is from Armature Studios, which was comprised of key creative members from Metroid Prime.
Huh.
That
So
right,
former
the
Retro
makers of
guys.
Metroid Prime and
Oh,
Keiji Inafune.
Ijifune, yeah. So it does look interesting. It's funny that Brandon did mention the whole Recore thing, because now I think about it, I wonder if that might be a central gameplay mechanic, is the idea of putting the core into different
I wonder
companions.
too, because they didn't actually show any gameplay of it.
Yeah, it was a cinematic trailer.
Yeah.
My tolerance of those kinds of trailers is just waned so much over the years.
Yeah,
that
the more gameplay demos we get as reveals, the less we care for trailers.
Yeah, because it tells me nothing about how the game is played. I get
Yeah.
no information from that. No useful information.
As far as the gameplay, I did make a suggestion where I said it looks like it would be a third-person action game in the vein of God of War or Wet. I specifically
Probably.
noted Wet because of the gameplay mixed with melee combat. And I said that's probably the least exciting part. I also made a note about the desert environment. It's probably only just for that trailer or just a small section of the game, but I did say that nothingness can be interesting if portrayed correctly, and somebody long ago did write an article about the desert area in Dragon Age and how interesting it was, because there's basically nothing there. So that would be really interesting if it all took place in that sort of desert, but I sincerely doubt that. It's probably a lot of underground caverns and factories.
So after Recore was announced, we did talk about backwards compatibility already, but that's what they went after that.
We
And
won't
after-
charge you to play the games you already own, was the quote everybody was pulling. And everybody going, no shit. Thanks.
And then following that was customizable controllers, or the Xbox Elite. Controller.
Starts with a starting price of $149.99.
Correct. And the thing that caught my attention until I saw the price point, in which case I stopped having any attention towards it, is that you can take off and like reapply directional pads, analog sticks, triggers to different places on the controller. Make it a much
Yes.
more customizable controller for whatever suits your need.
So the things that it looks like you can take off are both thumbsticks. You can change out the D-pad. There are 4 extra triggers on the back that are just little little springs almost that you can press that are where you cup your fingers. Yeah, there have been Xbox controllers with that before. They're macros.
The idea
basically.
is to make it not only good Xbox One controller, but a good PC controller as well.
Yeah.
So my first thing, again, I know you said like the D-pad is probably interchangeable. That default one they show on there looks like fucking garbage.
It looks like the old Xbox D-pad, the one that everybody hated.
No, that looks even worse.
It's a disc.
It looks like garbage.
So,
But they have a proper one, so that's
Ergonomics
okay.
have gone a long way since the PS1 era.
Yeah. The other thing I did notice that they pointed out for like a split second that a friend of mine who plays competitive COD would be interested in is that there's a hair trigger lock on the back of it. So you can make it so that like the tiniest bit of pressure on the trigger will actually cause you to shoot, which a lot of people would be really into because, people buy hair trigger mice for that reason to play like CSGO. Just makes it so it basically has no travel. Second you touch it, it'll fire. It definitely looks interesting. The price point, I would hope that that price point comes with all the interchangeable parts. Like here's all the other.
It would have.
Here's
to,
all the
otherwise,
other D-pads.
It doesn't justify that price at all.
Yeah. Otherwise, I could see it for like $60, only considering, or up to like 80, only because regular control is like 50, which I still think is way too much.
So you take the disc D-pad and you throw it in the fucking trash.
I'll be curious to see that come out. I'm really curious to see how competitive players take it. I'll be curious to see how it could work with PC games with those extra triggers and all that.
Still won't be able to play fighting games with it.
Yeah, it's not designed for it.
So, after they unveiled that controller in the trailer, they brought Todd Howard back out from the Bethesda conference to talk a bit more about Fallout 4, and they had one interesting reveal about it that really caught everyone's attention, which is that any mod that's made for the PC will also come to the Xbox One.
Yes. And I
And
made an
later on in a different conference, they announced that they're trying to get that to the PS4, but they haven't finished that part yet for the PS4.
So I did add a note that says, I don't know how they'll be able to add mods to the Xbox One version or what kind of filtering there will be. Will it go through the Nexus, which is the popular modding site? Doubt it. Will probably have to be uploaded to Bethesda's site proper.
You'll probably have Bethesda's own framework.
Yes, which probably means that you're not going to get a lot of the mods that people are into. It'll probably have a strict file size limit, which means like you can't do texture overhauls. There will probably be no noob mods. There'll probably be no licensed mods.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool, but it's still, like, if you're into modding, get the PC version. If you're anything beyond surface level modding of just like, I want a clown gun, like anything beyond
for
that.
me, the service level modding is just fine, so I would be okay with the console version.
Whereas like when I
honestly
get games,
care.
like the first thing I'm gonna get is like a texture overhaul and an animation overhaul, probably, and things like that.
And then on top of that, we had a gameplay video that we saw for Fallout 4, which, I mean, it's Fallout. One thing I noticed more is that VATS is to actually slows downtime in this game as opposed to just stopping it in Fallout 3 in New Vegas.
Yes, and you can get a guaranteed crit if you do enough damage. You just press that button to do a crit. It seemed like a different form of basically the same footage they showed for the PC.
And the other thing
or
I saw was
whatever they
that
showed it.
in the previous games, power armor was always just an item you could equip, like any other suit of armor. But in this game, it looks like it's like a power up that you had to get into, like a tank.
Yeah, it's an exoskeleton.
Yeah.
And it comes with its own heads-up display and all that stuff.
Which
so...
actually makes sense given how power armor was supposed to be in the lore of Fallout.
I have to wonder how long you get to keep that shit.
Well, I bet it's something that you have to craft in your settlement or whatever, and then you probably
have
keep it at the settlement
somewhere.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, there is a delivery system that you can do.
They'll probably you'll probably be like drop-off points you can use.
Yeah, so it's probably something that you can use for like a limited amount of time, and you probably can't do dialogue in it or some restrictions like that.
Or that requires repairs.
Yeah.
Regularly.
We'll see.
Like a tank should.
Yeah, modding on the console, it's a neat idea, but it's just the consoles by their very nature are so limited that that's probably the furthest they can go with it.
Yeah.
And I'll be interested to see how they implement that when we actually see it in action, which is soon because Fallout 4 is slated to be released later this year in November.
It's November 1st or November 11th.
5th,
I
think.
No, because it's 1-1. It's 1-1-1 was the vault, and they spread out the title. Let me double check. Maybe it was 5th.
I'm pretty sure it was the 5th.
I don't remember because I just remember they spread out the release. Apparently for those who ordered the Pip-Boy edition, Game is offering a free Vault 111 t-shirt to the first 10,000 people. Oh, I don't live in Europe. Anyway, so next
after the Fallout 4, EA had their time in the Microsoft conference, which was dull as hell.
I was trying to remember if I watched the EA thing. I did. It's just Peter Moore puts me to sleep.
The things they unveiled is that for EA Access, which is their prescription program that you can use to get EA games, they're adding Titanfall and Dragon Age Inquisition to it.
Yep, I said Titanfall is not a great grab for EA Access considering how cheap it is already.
Yeah,
and
bought both versions.
And Inquisition, while it is a not a bad game, it's half a year old at this point.
I did write a special note where after that he says, and for this time during E3, Xbox Gold members can have access to all, I bolded this, 12 titles in the EA Vault that you pay for monthly. And I thought about that, and I was like, so people pay $5 a month for 12 titles. I just put in quotes, all 12 titles, lol.
They're competing right now with PlayStation Plus.
And games with gold, and Steam sales.
The EA Vault, where we've locked away such classics as
Titanfall,
Madden NFL 13.
Yeah, it's like all their sports games, and like, I think Garden Warfare's on there, the first one, which is funny.
Oh, speaking of, Garden Warfare 2 was on EA time during Microsoft's press conference.
That was the segue I was looking for.
Yeah, especially since I already bought the first one for like $10.
And I could not give any less of a shit about Garden Warfare 2.
I mean, when I played it...
I'm sorry.
When I played it, it was a great game. The only problem is that it was basically already dead by the time I got to it 2 months after it came out.
I wrote on Twitter when that came out, like, if you were legitimately interested in Garden Warfare 2, you're better off just getting Splatoon.
Yeah, you certainly are.
It's not really the same game. It's just, it thinks it fills a void of, like, a quirky shooter that kind of plays, like... I'm trying to think of something else with, like, power-ups. I don't know. It just
seemed
fills a
like-
void that doesn't really need to exist. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not
like-
sure if anybody's going like, I really want a quirky power-up based shooter. It's like, no.
Like,
That's
nobody
not
looked
by
at-
Nintendo.
Nobody looked at like Plants vs Zombies and thought, "Man, I wish I could just shoot shit in this."
Yeah, like, when I played it, it's like it plays fine. It's just, it's not deep enough
It's
or
like,
interesting enough to keep me
think of-
playing long.
Think about the inherent concept behind Plants vs. Zombies. Oh, look, you're fighting zombies and they come in lanes. What are you going to fight with them? Plants, I guess. I don't know. That's not something you make a lore around.
Well, like I said, it plays fine when I played it. Like, it's a perfectly fine game.
It's like
just,
they're trying to world build an inherently stupid premise.
Eh.
Or a silly one, not stupid.
The premise, it has no legs, really.
Yeah.
When I played it, there was nothing to it beyond just getting card packs. Let's see,
and,
what else?
and then after that, Forza happened. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember
I
Forza,
did write a
'cause
quick note.
I don't.
Peter Moore hyping up games and ideas that no one cares about is a little painful to watch.
Yeah,
It's true,
it really
because he
is.
was just kind of like EA Access and Plants vs Zombies going for 2, and everybody was just kind of like tepid applause, and I was like, yeah, it's a little sad because he's trying to get everybody so
Oh,
excited and nobody gives a
man.
shit. It was
Pity
bad.
applause.
Like, he
about
must have been
all it.
fucking sweating bullets up there.
Did you do anything about Forza, which came out, which was announced right afterwards? 'Cause
Let's
I've got
see. I
nothing.
wrote, that's a nice looking car. When the real car, they brought down a real Ford GT.
Because I don't give a shit about Forza, and I'll make no apologies to my
see,
lack
what
of
else?
giving a
You
shit.
can drive this
Drug-
car as DLC after you buy the full-priced fucking $60 game.
And after Forza, they showed a trailer for Dark Souls 3.
I had notes about Forza, man.
Oh,
Stomping all over me.
talk
Can
about
I just
Forza.
say,
Hot
like-
Forza notes.
Yeah, we needed yet another Forza because the last one did it so fucking well.
Yeah, with its opera music.
Ugh.
I did make a comment about the music because they were using sort of like a hot alternative hit,
I
and
I do actually recall talking about how it felt like they were using sad music.
well,
Like,
it's alternative. That's what it is.
it's like this doesn't feel like it's congruous with a racing game.
Yeah, so I did say that, well, I don't really like the music they used in it. I legitimately think it's better than dubstep as far as racing music, which we can discuss that again later with EA.
Yeah,
But the thing about it is that it's, like, I never understood this idea with racing games that nobody seems to want to use, like, hard rock as far as racing music. Like, Gran Turismo 6 did. That's the only game I know that does. And it's like, does nobody race to just, like, metal or rock music? Like, that seems like it would be good
Yeah,
racing music.
Fucking,
Really energetic and hype.
I think it was
also-
one of the first or the second games where you were driving like Judas Priest. Like,
Yeah,
we'll
makes
get into
sense.
this later with EA. But what is it with racing protagonists and their inability to smile?
It's
you would think
impossible.
if you were driving a car at 100,000 or 100 miles an hour, you'd be smiling about it. You'd
It's probably
be
because
fucking
you're-
happy about driving a car at 100 miles an hour.
It's probably that if you use the muscles to smile, you're gonna crash into the side of a wall and kill yourself.
But like,
Seems
it's-
like most high
it's like-
strong people in the world.
it's like if you're riding a jet ski, you are not frowning while you're riding a jet ski. It's scientifically impossible.
You've never ridden a jet ski with me, Brandon. Just frowning the whole time.
wait, are they making Wave Race?
Yes, new Wave Race
I
64
Oh,
wish.
shit.
sequel.
I fucking wish.
I did say I'm legitimately more excited for Forza Horizon 3 because that better captures the feel of fun racing than Forza proper does these
Yeah.
days. Also, they brought out Henry Ford III, and they brought him out
It
for
was the
like
most
all of
awkward
30
thing I've
seconds.
ever seen.
It was just 30 seconds of like, hey,
Oh,
there's a new
God.
Ford GT coming out, and there's the
Okay.
video game with it. And they
E-
were like, okay, and that's it.
EA
Like, you brought
got
out
more-
Henry Ford to this convention to talk to him for like
It's-
30 seconds?
That's that's
It's
like
not
a
as awkward as EA did what EA did later, but it was pretty
Oh,
awkward.
yeah. No,
It's
we'll
like
get
a
to that.
step down from like trying to make Ringo and Paul from the Beatles actually play Rock Band with them fucking controllers.
Yeah. We'll get to that later, but there's a lot of really weird people
But-
they brought
but
out to
we've
just never
spent-
say anything to.
We've spent far too much time on Forza, so let's talk about Dark Souls 3 trailer.
The only note I put is it looks like Dark Souls.
Yeah. It
Like,
looked
this is coming
the-
from like the super fan. There's like 2 things I noticed, and that was it.
It looked like Gwyn was hollowed in that trailer, like the Lord of the Sun.
So are you guys talking about the person who puts on the crown?
Or no, the guy that came up and had like a
From the
flaming
grave?
sword. Yeah.
Because that looks way too big to be Gwyn.
Yeah,
Like
so-
he wasn't that huge. He gave up all his power.
My question about Dark Souls 3
Also,
is
that's
that
not what Gwyn wore. He didn't wear chainmail or blue.
yeah, my question about Dark Souls 3 is like, do we need to play another cycle? And at this point, if you wanted to make Dark Souls interesting, you might as well fucking set it in the modern
I
day
do
of like.
question the wisdom of having another Dark
Well,
Souls
two things that
Souls game.
two things that I've heard from people who are close to this development. One, Miyazaki is directing it. Two, this is the last Dark Souls game. Last one.
Okay.
Like confirmed final.
That is apparently what Miyazaki said. It doesn't mean it's the last of the Soulsborne franchise. There
Well,
will probably
no,
more
'cause I think
Bloodborne,
the
but it's
Souls- a
no
Souls
more
game
in
be
the Dark
better
Souls
ser-
universe.
I think the Souls game would be better served move to a different universe altogether at this point.
I think the Souls universe is best served if every game is a different universe.
I
If there was
agree.
only
Yeah.
one Demon Souls, one Dark Souls, and one Bloodborne, I could be down.
I
It's
agree.
not like they all have to be in the same franchise, like fucking Final Fantasy. Just allow it to be its own thing, and it can be held together, by its gameplay.
Well, that's how
mechanics. Like,
Final Fantasy lasted that long, is because every game was a different world.
For Dark Souls, like the person putting on the crown, I did notice they have the sign of the undead, or it looks like it was
Dark sign.
reflecting. Yeah, it looks like when they're putting on the crown, I guess it was a reflection from the crown that says it was placed on their head. I thought that could be interesting, except that the world is basically already over, so it's not like this idea of like, oh, the king or queen is hollowed out. It's like, yeah, that was already kind of the case with Dark Souls. Like, that's kind of the problem with Dark Souls, is that it started from the very bottom as far as like everything has already been ruined and destroyed, that there's really nowhere else to go. Like, because they're not building society back up, there's nothing else to tear down. There's nothing else to be like, oh, even he's gone hollow. It's like, the fucking king was already hollow in the first game. That's it. Game over, man. So it's kind of weird they show that. As for the person, I could tell you I thought someone did say that was Gwyn coming out of the grave, but it's not his armor. He doesn't wear blue. Artorias did. He doesn't have a butcher's knife, which was weird. And two, or whatever, I'm on 3 or 4, he was like 6 times the size of Gwyn, who at that point should have been really small. And Gwyn didn't get buried in a crypt. He died in a cave.
I know, I killed him.
Yeah. So it's really weird. Everyone's like, oh, it's Gwyn. It's like, no, it's not. It's just some large enemy who's on fire. It looks like the Smelter Demon almost. Like, I don't know. Everybody thought it was Gwyn.
So I think we've talked enough about Dark Souls 3 for now,
Sure.
until we
This
get more
trailer.
information on it.
Yeah, there's nothing on it.
But after that, Ubisoft came on stage, and oh my god, I stopped caring.
I liked Ubisoft stuff a lot.
They talked about The Division,
Yep.
which
I'm
is why I
excited.
stopped caring.
Nope. I am
Yeah, 'cause when
legitimately.
this supposed
That
to be
might be
out
one of
already?
my. It was supposed to come out like last year.
I can no longer care about the empty promise of that game until it comes out.
I am legitimately excited for The Division. It is.
Tell me
one of-
why.
Because I don't really care for like the new story that's set up. I made a note about that says, let's see. I get the impression of the original gameplay demo that the players were just scavengers like anyone else who just happen to have better tech. This is loads less interesting as far as you're the last hope for humanity, you come up as cleaners. But I do find, I wrote this in my later notes at the Ubisoft conference, which I gotta go find Division again. The Borderlands-style enemies who have large chunks of health that basically mimic real players does seem like a really interesting concept, as opposed to AI grunts who go down in like 2 hits and players who go down in 10. The idea of going rogue, which is very, very similar to Kane Lynch's Blood Money multiplayer mode from the first game, wherein you could turn on your partners and gain more of a share. It's very interesting against regular players, but it would never work when you're playing with friends because you have no reason to betray your own real friends.
Yeah.
But I think it has a really interesting idea. I wonder how like the open world travel is going to work. The gunplay definitely has to hold up. I think the tech is interesting. I think the heads-up display and the way you navigate is interesting.
And then they revealed that Xbox One's gonna have an exclusive beta for The Division.
Yep.
To which the audience applauded, and I was curious as to why that was the case.
They applauded everything. Doesn't matter how much
It's
applause.
like, what are you idiots clapping for? Exclusive is bad.
Yeah, but they get to play The Division. Keep in mind, these are people who go to sit at E3. These are people who probably own like multiple consoles and couldn't give votes for the shit.
Well, they're journalists.
Well, I think the people sitting at the table was a lot of fans as well, because they kept asking different fans and cosplayers to stand up. Like in the Bethesda one, there's a guy dressed up as a dude from New Vegas, like the Ranger guy.
Yeah, I remember Adam Zasler was talking to him in the pre-show.
And after that, they did Rainbow Six Siege, which they also demoed at the Ubisoft conference proper.
Oh, I have nothing on that.
I don't think I ever talked about it in the podcast, but I actually played the beta back when it was out for a little while. I did say that was back when they demoed just the house level, which they showed last year, I believe.
Yes.
But it's a really interesting game in the sense that it features all the tactical stylings of Arma and SOCOM, but in a really, really, like, much too close for comfort environments. So, as they showed later on in the Ubisoft conference, it definitely features an interesting dynamic as far as just, like, you know, destructible environments combined with, like, the 2-hit kills. It's really fast and it's really intense, and the matches move really, really quickly. I don't think the gunplay was all that great when I played it, and the movement was a little bit stiff as far as I did. There was also a lot of technical glitches that can be ironed out. But I feel like the case with other Ubisoft games, which we'll get to when we get to their conference, it's kind of like we have to reinvent this franchise because there's nothing else we can do with it. Which is what they did with was it Vegas 2 was the last one?
Was there anything else Ubisoft announced during that time, or I can't really think of anything.
Not until their conference. After that,
all right, so
on.
we'll wait until their conference then to talk more about them. Oh, I have a lot to say about them.
After that, they showed off Gigantic,
which was a MOBA, and then I kind of clocked out
That's
when
a
they
MOBA?
revealed it was a MOBA. Yeah, it's a MOBA.
All I put was EH period.
I was like, oh yeah, that looks colorful. MOBA pass.
I can't wait when it gets shut down in 3 months.
And then
because it's not League.
And then they went into their indie segment, which I really did like. There were 2 games in the indie segment that stood out to me. One was Tacoma, which was from the makers of Gone Home, Fulbright.
Yep, Steve Gaynor was there, hanging out.
And it looks really nice, and I'm looking forward to seeing that kind of game in a spaceship.
Yeah, I said if Tacoma ends up being Gone Home in space, I'll still be interested. Fulbright knows how to craft good characters and stories. Like, if it's just exploration, that's fine, because that's what they do well.
And the other one that caught my interest was Cuphead.
I wrote down a note for every game.
Because that art style looked really cool.
It's for those who haven't probably seen it, it's mimicking basically what did they say, 1930s art style?
Felix the Cat-esque.
Yeah, that, and what was it? Not the pre-Mickey Mouse cartoons. What was it? Willie or something like that?
Steamboat Willie.
Steamboat Willie. Yeah. It's that kind of art style.
Yeah. I was gonna say fucking Oswald the Rabbit, but
yeah, I mean even that kind of stuff though. It's like even has like that filter on it. It has that animation
cartoons.
Style where like everything has a face and everything bounces.
Yeah. Those old silent cartoons.
Yeah.
It looks childish and disturbing all at the same time.
Yep.
It looks like it'll be really fun to play.
Yeah. Let's see. Did you write anything else about any of the other indie games? Because I wrote a note for each one.
Because they kind of went too fast for me when I was watching it live.
Oh man, I got notes.
That's the segment where you see all like 10 indie games real fast, and they don't spend any time focusing on any one of them. So I don't focus on them.
Do you remember the demo for Ashen, which was the one where the people are faceless?
I remember because I commented that I was getting sick of sad-looking indie games.
I did say it has a beautiful art style. I actually think the faceless idea, I've always found that interesting, just from like a philosophical standpoint of looking at people like that. I like the muted colors. I really like the monster designs. I'm curious how the game will play. I'm assuming it's a platformer of some sort or another, maybe some kind of exploration platformer.
For me, this is gonna sound kind of cool, but like I'm getting just a little bit sick of the depressing artsy indie game. Like it's starting to this point where it's almost formulaic at this point. It's like a platformer-esque, and it's like... So
you're saying Limbo. You're getting tired of playing Limbo.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of playing Limbo. I'm tired of playing fucking Limbo.
I'm not tired of it yet, but I will. I'm curious. It's just, it always has to do something different. It has to have some kind of hook, because it can't just be a cinematic platformer. That's not good enough anymore.
I'm also at the point where I'm just getting sick of playing depressing games in the general sense.
Oh, no. I'm still going on that, man. I was watching a really soul-crushing show last night. It's great.
So after that... Oh, do you have more indie games?
Yeah, there's one more, which was a game called Beyond Eyes, about a blind girl. I only found that funny because Patrick from Kotaku recently ran a story about 2 other games that featured blind protagonists, so we have 3 of them coming out in the same year.
I mean, it looks nice.
It looks nice. The only thing that I found kind of weird is that they all use the exact same gameplay hook of you're only able to see within a small radius of yourself. Which, you know, I'm not blind, so I couldn't really say how accurate that is, but, like, I can't remember what the other 2 games are called. One of them's called, like, I think it's called, like, Sight and Perception are the other 2. And one of them's, like, a horror game, one's an exploration game, this one looks to be a kind of RC exploration game. But they all feature that exact same, not look, but that gameplay hook, and I wonder if all of them coming out at the same time is going to really hurt all 3 of them.
It would be ballsy, but probably a bad idea, if you played a game where you had no visual feedback at all, where it was all sound based.
Games like that have existed. They're just super incredibly indie.
It's like super niche, and you
That
need
would be
different hardware to play
ballsy and
it.
probably something that I would actually probably hate, but it would be an interesting idea.
Yeah, so Beyond Eyes, I thought it looked kind of interesting, but I do worry that it hitting at the same time as those other games, they're just going to crush each other, and then it's going to be like, do I even care about any of these 3 games where you play as a blind protagonist exploring an area?
And then
Yeah, that's it as far as you going to the game preview next.
I was going to Microsoft Early Access is what I called it in my notes.
I said, my note says, I'll be honest here, I hate Early Access.
Yeah,
I don't think it's done enough to warrant the issues it brings up. Most devs only seem to want bug testers.
pretty much. I really don't see the appeal of Early Access anymore.
Chris, do you have any thoughts on Early Access before I get into this real quick?
I still don't buy them.
Yeah. So, aside from, like, I bought Gang Beasts because some friends came over, and that turned
I
out
bought
great.
Darkest Dungeon.
Yep. But there's 2 things I have about Early Access. One is the idea that every developer always claims they want feedback, but it seems like what they really want, and this is me being pretty cynical, I'm sure developers would argue that I'm wrong, or a lot of people would, is that it seems developers claim they want feedback, but only want bug testing. Like, a lot of games I've seen, it's kind of like, they have this vision of it, and they're like, we just want to make sure you don't fall through the world. And the other thing is that the bigger problem I have with Early Access, and this is a very personal opinion, I'd be happy if you disagree with me just to think about it, but I don't like the idea of design by committee, which is the idea of, like, if they are looking for feedback, I personally don't like that, because I like the idea of the team, or even the solo person's vision of a game. I don't like the idea of hundreds of people all saying, well, I want it to be this and this and this, because then you have the Ubisoft problem of, like, Watch Dogs.
I don't have any inherent issue of design by committee, just in the philosophical sense. The thing I have a problem with Early Access, there are a lot of games that are like barely above minimum shippable product that are on Early Access and have no right to be even out in the wilds.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of them, it seems like the 3 that I see are either that, which is like a brand new game, barely a framework, like there was that game that's called like Dragon, where you could do nothing in that entire game, but fly
Jim
around.
Sterling has been like on a personal crusade against developers who take this one zombie like kit from
Yes, the Unity
store,
Yeah.
and then just literally repackage it without doing any work.
So it seems like the 3 I see are either that kind of thing. I see the ones, like I said earlier, where they're basically done, all they want is bug testers, which Steam says you cannot do, but people do anyway, which is just like, we're at the home stretch, we just need to make sure it works. And the third one I see is the Early Access game that never comes out. Which I made a point where they started announcing a few games. They were like, oh yeah, Elite Dangerous is going to be on here. And then they said DayZ, and people lost their shit. And I specifically wrote, DayZ has no business being here because it's still broken as hell on PC. It has been for years, and it will be for years. I will say this now, legitimately think this game will never release fully. I don't think DayZ is ever going to come out as a complete product because it is so incredibly ambitious that it's impossible.
I don't know if this was during the Microsoft conference or during another conference, but the guy who made DayZ...
Yes, that's the next thing up, is Ion.
Yeah, fuck
the guy
him.
who made DayZ basically said, hey, I'm making another game. And it's like, dude, your first game's not done.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how game works.
Stop being Peter Molyneux. That's not something you want to take examples from.
Yeah, and I said I love a good space game, but I legitimately don't trust Dean to finish a game. He's just too ambitious.
The other thing is that I was like, oh yeah, you made No Man's Sky. I'm already looking forward to one of those things. I don't need a second one.
Yeah, but it's just like I said. I think that the problem with Dean is that he's a great guy from what I've seen in interviews. He's too ambitious for games as they are right now. He wants these fully fledged worlds with multiple interlocking systems that is just not possible on the scale that he wants.
Especially not by himself.
Yeah, well, he has a pretty small team. I remember with, like, the Arma 2 mod, I think it was just him and, like, 2 other people originally.
Yeah, that's not enough people to make a game that ambitious.
And even if he had, like, hundreds, he asked for so much on such a scale. Like, DayZ is, like, nearly the size of a country. And he expects, like, all these interlocking systems of, like, repairing vehicles and airdrops and the zombies and the human interaction. And you can do things like you can take blood from people and feed on them. And now he's like, well, I want to make another game. And it's like, you can't do that though, because
you gotta finish the one you're making first.
Yeah, you gotta keep your scope within reason, buddy.
So I think Ion could be cool. I feel like it's gonna be like Star Citizen, except he doesn't have the money or the people to back up that kind of ambition.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I
like,
pretty much
as we'll
agree.
mention later during the Sony thing, No Man's Sky kind of looks like Star Citizen, but with a much smaller ambition. Not really scope, but ambition. As far as what you do.
And after Ion, I believe Tomb Raider came next.
Yes, Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Which, I mean, it's hard to tell exactly how much of that was CGI. It was like a pre-rendered cutscene, and how much of that was gameplay.
It looks like gameplay to me. Doesn't look incredibly better than Tomb Raider 2013.
I mean, like in-engine cutscenes as opposed to like gameplay. It's hard to tell how much of that was something that someone was actually playing.
Yeah, I mean, he had the controller, but I have no idea if he was just mimicking something.
Because that happens all the time at press conferences. You can see the controllers, and whatever they're pressing has nothing to do whatsoever with what's going on the screen.
So the things I did mention was that let's see what I wrote. I'm definitely excited for this, as Tomb Raider 2030 is one of my all-time favorite games, but like Uncharted 2, it's basically the same game mechanically, which kind of bummed me out when I saw it. It's like, it still has the grip stuff, it still has the cinematic, risk-free platforming.
I expected
it
that,
still
so
has,
I wasn't disappointed
like,
by that
the
at all.
The grappling hooks. Like, I guess the thing is, I wanted more from Tomb Raider because I liked the first one so much, and it looks to be, again, like Uncharted 2, which is basically the same. And I also said I'm disappointed because I was hoping for a much less Hollywood-style story, which we talked about at the second half of our second season of IF.
Yeah,
but and I said, I suppose that's inevitable. Like, that's the way that Tomb Raider originally was, so they're just going back to that.
I fucking called it. As you recall.
I still want to be able to turn a pistol into a magnum using sticks and rocks.
No, Chris, you use indescribed salvage.
Rusted metal and shit.
I did find it funny, though, that she built another bow, and I was like, I wonder what kind of thing they're gonna come up with to make her make another bow at that point.
It's like you start off with wood and a string, and you come up with a fucking tech bow.
Yeah.
You can make a championship composite bow.
Oh God!
I mean, I did love. Well, I mean, Tomb Raider, they explained it, if only because you couldn't upgrade to the steel one until Jonas gave you it, and then you could upgrade that one to a competition bow. You could only go as far as a compound wooden bow. But I don't know, like, the bow, it was cool to see the bows, like, the platform looked cool, and I believe it was Jonas with her, right? I believe that's what,
She mentioned his name was Jonas by name.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys don't remember from IF, that was the whale guy.
It was the big guy.
Yeah.
So it looks really interesting and all that, and I'm sure I'll love it to death, but it's just, I guess I wanted more out of Tomb Raider.
Looks like Jonas lost weight in between adventures.
I think when you're climbing up the sides of mountains, you're probably going to.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Like, I'm terribly excited, but at the same time, it's just, I guess I wanted something different from it. But
we'll probably end up doing a season on it once two of us have played it at some point.
Yeah, so look for that in like a year and a half when the PC version comes out, we can both play it.
And after Tomb Raider, it was the Rare segment, which you might be surprised to know that Rare actually still exists.
Yeah,
they were busy working on Kinect Sports 7. Like, at that point, it's kind of funny because it's like, it's not Rare anymore. It's Rare in name only.
Yeah,
they announced two
people
projects.
Who fucking worked at Rare have come out and said that nobody's there anymore.
Yep.
They announced two projects. One is a game collection of 30 old Rare games that are coming. That's coming as one package to the Xbox One.
It's called Rare Replay, and it'll cost $30. It features games like Banjo-Kazooie. I believe it's Banjo-Kazooie, Tooie, Nuts and Bolts. It comes with Conker's Bad Fur Day, the original version. And like, you know, the Rare classics. It looked like it had Battletoads on there, which would make sense because they own that IP now. So yeah, like, you know, classic Rare games. And I thought $30, that's a really understandable price. If it was like a full $60 release, I'd be like, that's a little rough.
They originally had 10,000 gamer score.
Yeah, they highlighted that as part of the trailer.
I'm interested to see how original Conker's Bad Fur, like, if they're honest to God bringing like the original N64 version as it was without that live and reloaded bullshit. I'm interested to see that.
I would have to imagine it'd be that version, because they probably know about the backlash that one got.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was so dumb how it's like, they made the one that was less censored on a family-friendly console, and yet the console that's supposed to be for the big boys and adults gets more censored. Like,
yeah.
How the fuck do you do that?
So for me, the marketing announcement they had was the Sea of Thieves.
Right.
Mostly because I like piracy.
Yes, you love torrenting things for free.
Don't go too far into that.
I love piracy. I'm just gonna cut that out of context and put it up on YouTube. So yeah, I just wrote a long note about this. It says I think pirates are a pretty underutilized concept in big budget games. There are definitely a lot of like free to play pirate stuff. I worry though. The two things I worry about is that one, with its MMO style tendencies, where it features a lot of players running around, and it features one of the coolest parts about that. Definitely seems that you have multiple people who have to work together to man a ship. Seems really really cool. The only thing is I do worry that because of all the MMO stuff, or at least MMO stylings, I don't know if it's like whatever. Point being, where it's going to be kind of shallow because of that. Like, it won't have much mechanical depth. And two, I said that AC4 has considerably raised the bar on ship combat and exploration in that setting. So they have a really rough road ahead of them.
Same thoughts.
Yeah, like if AC4 didn't exist, then it would be like, it just has to play fine. With AC4, you have to really work hard to make that combat fun and the exploration interesting. Because 4 did both of those really well. So I'll be curious to see. It's definitely got that rare style to it. Like, it looks kind of goofy and fun, but I don't know. The most interesting part will definitely be the multiple people required to man a ship thing.
It'll be something that I'll keep an eye on in the future. Definitely.
Yeah. I like the idea of any game where you have to have multiple people working together to make something work, like a vehicle.
Oh god, what was it? It was a Unity game, like one of the best looking.
Artemis?
No, it was like a multiplayer game where your team was on your ship.
Yeah, it was like called Artemis, where you have multiple. You have a guy manning the guns, one guy manning comms, one manning.
Guns of Icarus.
Yeah, Guns of Icarus. That was.
Oh, okay. Because there's a space battleship game called Artemis where you do that.
Oh, okay.
There's also Guns of Icarus, and there's another one called Air Buccaneers, I think, that was a Guns of Icarus ripoff, or maybe that ripped off. I don't know.
Moving right along, the thing that actually impressed me probably the most out of the conference was the stuff they showed for HoloLens.
Oh, you just skipped one because I was gonna say, did Fable Legends really impress you?
Oh, no one cared for Legends, so I just skipped it altogether.
Seems like it's more. I just wrote. Seems like the talk was more about Windows 10 than Fable, and that's probably all right. It's a free-to-play Fable adventure game of some sort.
Do you honestly care?
It's crossplay between Windows 10 and Xbox One, which is the only neat about it, is that crossplay is coming back.
We are literally only bringing this up right now because it was in the press conference. Otherwise, we would have no reason to bring this up.
Nope.
Yeah. It is funny thought though that like crossplay is actually finally coming out. Like the PS4, PS3, PS4 stuff with fighting games, and Xbox One and Windows 10 stuff. That seems pretty neat.
You know, depending on how long they continue to support PS3.
Fable Legends is not neat though.
No.
Game of the year. Calling it right now.
So let's talk about HoloLens.
Our dystopian future is closer than ever before. God help us. That's what I wrote.
Did you see the Minecraft on the table?
Yeah. Our dystopian future is closer than ever before.
That was fucking amazing looking. If that is what they can do with HoloLens, sign me up, baby.
I do wonder about the price point of something like that.
Yeah,
you gotta imagine it's $500+,
like,
if not like 1,000.
Do you remember the old Yu-Gi-Oh cartoons? How they had the holograms and the duels and shit.
Yeah.
That might be possible now with HoloLens.
Just have kids, instead of me and my friends playing Yu-Gi-Oh on the street.
Totally get back into Yu-Gi-Oh if they could make duels like that with HoloLens.
Well, remember they had Eye of Judgment for the PS3, which was an AR card game.
Shit, no one cares about Eye of Judgment.
But people do care about Yu-Gi-Oh coming exclusively to the Xbox One.
Oh Jesus!
You know what though?
Why Konami?
I'd probably play Yu-Gi-Oh again if it had Yu-Gi-Oh AR.
Yeah, if there was totally like holograms and shit, you
can
totally play Yu-Gi-Oh
if I am wearing
again.
the helmet, can I also make my opponent look like Seto Kaiba?
Jesus.
That would be great.
I imagine anime Seto Kaiba brought into the 3D world would be horrifying.
Oh yeah, just like
I think even worse than that, like not even like a Yu-Gi-Oh clone, but if Microsoft had their own version of Pokemon, and then you were actually like giving orders to a fucking holographic Pokemon as they were fighting each other in front of you.
The gaming possibilities with HoloLens are literally like endless. Because with the Minecraft thing they showed, it's basically literally virtual Legos.
Yeah, it's super interesting to see because we've always had this dream and this sort of joke about augmented reality and how it would look, and it's like HoloLens is basically that. Like it's really hard to explain without showing it to somebody. But if you look at the Minecraft demo, he just has a table, and then Minecraft literally just shoots out of the table, and it doesn't look janky because it basically levels with the surface of the table, unlike say a card or PlayStation Eye thing.
Yeah.
So it looks completely real. Like he can like use his fingers to pull up the world, or he can zoom out if he does a gesture. He can even speak to it. He can say lightning bolt and it causes things to happen, so it's voice activated. I don't know how much it'll cost, but I might be saving up for that thing, even for like the 3 games it'll support ever.
I hope it doesn't turn into another Connect.
The best thing that
That's
Microsoft could
that's
do.
like that's not to the game. That's something you could do in like real world applications with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Something
when
beyond
they first
gaming.
debuted the game, they showed it with conferences.
Yeah.
It was designed for like AR conference stuff. The one thing they probably could do to make it not a sequel to Kinect is have an open API for that thing. Allow indie developers to have support for that, and you're golden.
Yes.
Imagine going
Yeah.
to like itch.io and being like, "Hey, my indie game just happens to support AR support, so you can play the game on your table." Like, yes, dude, God.
Oh man.
Like, can you
that's
imagine
all I
playing an
want.
RTS with a HoloLens?
Yes, it's like the promise of Tom Clancy's End War when that game came out, and it was all voice activated. Like the idea that you could have a physical holographic table in front of you and just like point at a place on the map and be like, "Unit 2, move there," and like
Like
you
you
actually
could
do it.
literally play like an anime war with that. Like, you know how anime wars have that glowing table shit.
Yeah.
That's like literally a thing that could happen now.
Well, it's like you see like those like dystopia, well not dystopia future. You see like the future sci-fi films, and they always have
Yeah.
the holographic table with the war room, and it's like it'll basically be that. That could be incredible, man.
That really could be, and with
Could be cool.
with Oculus Rift partnership too.
Yep. Wait, did they say that, or are you just
Yeah,
saying that?
they literally said they're partnering with Oculus Rift for the HoloLens shit.
Oh, so I wonder if that means they'll be like sharing technology with each other and all that. 'Cause that'd be great. I don't know. HoloLens looks super cool. I wish I had more to say about it other than, fuck yeah, man.
But yeah,
HoloLens.
that ends my notes on the Microsoft conference. I don't know if anything will follow
Uh,
that.
2 more. 1, Gears of War 1 Remaster, which you already knew about.
Oh right, that's why I didn't take
Yeah,
notes of
the
that because I
Ultimate
didn't care.
Edition, like, well,
Yeah.
why should we care?
I wrote down specifically, I hate this trend of release the game at 30 frames per second and then remaster it at 60 because it treats frame rate as something that's just a little extra, like a better part of like particle effects or god rays.
Yeah, like,
And that's something that I get really, uppity about, but it really bums me out that, like, when Last of Us gets remastered, Ratchet & Clank, it's always like, and now it's at 60 FPS. Like, thanks, I had to wait 5 years to play it in a better frame rate.
yeah, the thing that seems really stupid to me about this whole thing is that you're only releasing one game. Where is your fucking Gears of War collection, man?
Yeah, it considering that 3 was the most widely popular, it really should have been the Gears Trilogy remaster.
Yeah,
And I wouldn't be
absolutely.
surprised. They're probably just going to test the market for it to see if they can further development for all of them. But that would really suck if they were just like, and now you get Gears 2 remastered for $60 and Gears 3 remastered for $60. And so, and then they'll release a collection like a year after that.
I am so glad you guys care about this because I don't.
I like Gears of War a lot, personally. They did also show Gears of War 4, which was funny that in the trailer it only said Gears 4. So so it's just called Gears now?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm confused because the person who talked about it afterwards, it might have been Phil Spencer, was like, and that's Gears of War 4, and it's like, but the game said Gears 4, because everybody
Yeah,
always
like-
calls it Gears. And I was like, it would be fine if they just called it Gears from now on, like, that's a better name, I think. I made a point about, like, the whole graphics of it, that, like, Gears was a graphical showcase I didn't expect Gears 4 to be, but, it looks fine. As far as, like, gameplay, it has, some slightly new mechanics. It looks like there's a new enemy type, which I have no idea what it is, some kind of new alien.
Can I get behind
because-
chest-high walls and shoot dudes?
Yes, it was funny that they had a particular
Yeah.
moment where they were fighting enemies, and you could see him hit the button, and the character just flung himself against the car. And I was like, that is Gears of War, baby!
Yep.
Just, you hit a button, and you just slam your
Dunk.
body against the car.
Yep.
Like, that's how I remember Gears of War. It's
You
really,
stick to the wall like glue.
Yeah, like, really incredibly sticky cover. But you know what, like, I'm down for another Gears, I guess. Sure. It's been long enough.
Yeah, I guess.
I guess.
Sure, why not?
So is there anything else happened at the Microsoft conference that I forgot to make a note of?
That's the last of my notes.
Okay, so let's move on to EA because that's going to be fun.
Oh,
We're on
shit.
page 4 of my notes. Okay.
So EA kicked it off with a trailer for the Mass Effect game that showed nothing substantial whatsoever.
Let me tell you about cinematic trailers. Pretty cinematic.
You'll see that's a trend for the EA conference, is showing a bunch of trailers that show nothing substantial whatsoever.
So I did make some, like, very rough speculation notes about this, and I'm just curious what y'all might think, assuming, like, let's just play hypothetical here. What y'all would think if this was true? I did say it looks like it's becoming more and more of an action game with every release, because during the trailer they show a guy basically jumping off a cliff, like doing a jetpack jump and then
It
slamming
looks
into
like
the ground.
Firefly.
Wait, the show?
Yeah, like it looks space western.
Yeah,
Oh.
says the guy
Yeah,
that
the
watched
thing is,
every
the music they
episode.
play, when they first showed the music, I was like, who the hell has their iPod on in the background? And then I was like, no, that's the music from Mass Effect. It is straight up like stringy guitar music.
It is basically space western. At least that's
But
what
you know what?
Luke is trying for.
Like, as long as it still has like the BioWare charm and dialogue, I could be down for a space western.
Yeah, I could be
I like
down for
space.
Firefly. Give me Nathan
Yeah.
Fillion. Let's have the Firefly game.
I did make a note of it, but I found that the armor designs get a little more ridiculous every time. Because
Yes,
like the
they
first
do.
game, they looked pretty utilitarian. Like they just were very skin tight, very base colors. And with every Mass Effect, they get flashier and flashier every time.
We fight or we die.
Yeah. I did also make a note, again, hard speculation here, is that because the protagonist is fighting with other people, I wonder if there'll be some kind of co-op campaign. And this is just me reaching because it would be cool. I said, I think that's one thing Mass Effect is missing, cooperative role-playing. That would be amazing if they could somehow
They tried it with the Old Republic. It didn't really work out.
No,
Well, not on an MMO scale, though. Just with, like, 2 to 4 players. But that deep dialogue system and just, like, character interactions with just a couple of people, like a crew, basically.
I'm sorry, but like deep binary choices.
That's why you don't have binary choices, man. You got those moral grays.
God, I don't expect BioWare to do co-op role playing at all well. I really don't. I
I
don't
would like
think
to see
they'd
him.
be
If
able
it was
to
a
do
separate campaign, I'd like to see them try. I just want to see someone do
because
it.
just having to have to deal with not only one person's choices but 2 or 3 or 4 people's choices, that would be a fucking nightmare.
That's why you have like a voting system or something like that. Or you have
Like
different
the Old
people talking to
Republic?
different. It's not an MMO though, or you have like
It
different crew
wouldn't
members.
fucking matter. That's not the issue with Old Public. That was an MMO. It's just that
Oh
you
my
have 4
God.
people voting on what do the good or the bad choice. Then, and if it's a 3-1, that one person got fucked. If it's a tie, then 2 people got fucked.
Brady, you just not want to see new innovations in games.
I don't want you.
Wouldn't
to
you want them to at least try? Like, say that the campaign was still as good as it would ever.
Legitimately, no. I would not want them to even try.
Even if the campaign was as good as it was going to be without it, even if it still had the great multiplayer, just not even try. If it had no cost whatsoever, if people's lives were enriched by the making of this co-op campaign, you would not have it.
Sam, let's be realistic. No, let's take this out of that fantasy world you're in. Let's go into the reality-based world. That's not gonna
Mass
happen.
Effect Andromeda co-op campaign,
Oh,
co-op only,
jeez.
no single player. I'm calling it right now.
Because
Oh,
of the
It's gonna be an
fact that
MMO.
when I'm role playing in a role playing game, I hate other people.
You know,
unless it's
you know,
D&D.
you know, would be the greatest kick to the nuts. It's an MMO.
Do people
Just
still
make it
give
an
a
MMO.
shit about Mass Effect's story? Like,
I like the universe.
Oh my
a lot.
god, yes, dude. There are turf wars based on Mass Effect story.
really?
Like the thing
Yes.
is that like like we'll talk about this a bit later when we get to some of the later games, but I really do not give a shit about the Star Wars universe. I love the Mass Effect universe. I love all the alien stuff. I love reading up on it. I love the planets.
Yeah,
I don't like the Promethean stuff, but I like the current. I like the Prothean. I like the really like the present day Mass Effect stuff when like it was Mass Effect 1 of just like here's how all the politics work out and things like that. It was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like the lore and everything was really good. Like, I give it that. It's just like fuck, man. Like, I haven't touched Mass Effect 3 in such a long ass time, and like you know,
Have you ever
and
finished it?
Mass Effect 3? Oh hell yes, I did.
Yeah,
I-
then never touched
In
it
my
again.
circles, if you mention Kyle Lang's name, you'll get killed. Like legitimately hanged and quartered.
Kai Lang was such a fucking B tier shit ass mid boss. Like, what the fuck ever?
It's all about Garrus, man.
Fucking scrub.
I remember somebody liked Garrus's line from Mass Effect 2 where he says, I have to calibrate this or something.
Can it wait for a bit? I'm in the middle of some
Yeah.
calibrations.
Yeah, somebody made a wallpaper on DeviantArt of that, which they liked it so much.
But yes, as for the actual thing that they announced at E3, we don't really know anything about it because they didn't actually show anything. So after that, they announced the Need for Speed game, and again, they didn't actually show any gameplay of it. We just kind of know it's a Need for Speed game.
Well, they did show gameplay. It's
They
an
did?
engine. Yeah, you don't remember that?
No, I don't.
Did you pass out for like 3 minutes?
Possibly.
It was after the trailer. You know, like they had the people come out and then they went back into the game.
Oh, you mean the guy in the red flannel?
I don't remember. I just remember that they showed a race
I
going
remember
on.
the guy in the red flannel because I couldn't understand any word that came out of his fucking mouth.
Well, they did show like a single race in the game, so they showed like what the lighting effects look like. They showed the car customization a bit. because they showed like the FMV cutscenes and then
Oh
the
right,
people
because
walk
of
off
the
screen.
sad music. That fucking
That's
had the
Forza!
sad music. No. Need for Speed had sad music too. I know.
Maybe
I
during-
made it.
maybe
I
during the
noted
trailer,
The
that.
but the game-
trailers are bleeding together.
But the trailer had hip hop music. It was playing like Wiz Khalifa or something, and so was the gameplay. It may have been the car customization music, but like the actual races has like standard hip hop stuff. But yeah, like the gameplay, it looked fine.
It looked like Need for Speed.
Yeah, it looked like the drifting was kind of insane. 'Cause it looks like when you drift, you basically stop in place and spin your car. Like there's no actual like drifting. The two notes I made is that after playing a lot of like Forza and Project Cars and all that kind of stuff, as much as I love racing sims, I could be down for another stylistic driving game, sure. And the second thing I said was that I find it funny is that for those of you who have played Rivals and Most Wanted and the most recent stuff, Need for Speed has this hilarious thing where the past few games try to show off how good their cars looked by them being perpetually wet. Like when you play Need for Speed Rivals, no matter how sunny it is, the cars are wet constantly,
Oh
God.
man, that looks.
which is hilarious. So I just wanted to point that out. I found it great.
So after Need for Speed, they talked about an expansion to the Old Republic, and I totally checked out.
Man,
Yeah.
you're not really good at paying attention to these, are you?
Well, if it's something that I don't care about, I'm not going to pay attention to it.
Motherfucker, I took all these notes, and you're just like, I was just hanging out. I was like, I took
Also,
notes,
I was trying
man.
to keep up with the fucking Twitter feed at the same time, and that's a nightmare in and of itself.
That's why you don't keep up with the Twitter feed. The Old Republic,
Yeah, you're
did you
asking
watch
for
the trailer for it?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
looks
this-
it looks nice.
I said this made me interested in the game again, if only because that trailer was really good. And
Like
then I
this
kind
is
of made
new
a...
expansion, or
It's a full-blown new single-player expansion. It has a new story that's completely divorced from the rest of the game.
Hmm.
It seems that it's about two brothers who are trying, one of them is less good than the other, so he ends up getting like half his face burned and his arm cut off and goes half cybernetic and then tries to kill his father, and then the other one stops him, and apparently you're involved somehow. I don't know. It looks interesting.
I
should give the Old Republic a shot sometime.
I've got no opinion on the Old Republic, so I'm just gonna like pass on that. But what I did have an opinion on, because I really thought it looked pretty cute, was Unravel.
Yeah. That guy
That looked really cute, and that guy was so nervous.
I was gonna make a point. That guy just looks so nervous. I was like, I'm
I
so
felt
sorry
so
that you're
bad for
freaking
him.
out.
I was like, dude,
He
made
was
a good
visibly-
game. You made a good game. Be proud of it.
Yeah,
you
he,
did good.
like-
You did good, son.
It's one of those things like you have to see it, but that guy was like visibly shaking the whole time, and he was like stuttering, and because he was just some guy. I think he's from Sweden.
On the other hand, it was so genuine that it was endearing compared to
Yeah.
how cold
Yes.
and like calculating the rest of that conference was. Just to have one moment of sincerity was greatly appreciated.
Yeah, that guy. It is a small team. He said it was a team of 14 people from Sweden, and he got the idea when he went to the lake with his family, and he had a little guy made of yarn. And he basically just took it around and took photographs of the yarn unraveling around different objects, and then he decided to make a physics platformer with it.
So cute. It
Yeah,
really is.
the
It's
note
so
I wrote was, "This
cute.
game looks cute as hell." And he did also make a point at the beginning where he says he wants games to be more than just entertaining, so he wants to tell... Well, I don't think he said he wants to tell an interesting story so much as he just said more than entertaining. So I'm curious if he is going for a sort of more morbid mood or something like that. But he, like, if there was ever a case of someone being so genuinely interested in their game and so humbled by the world of video games, it was that guy. Like, he just seemed like he could not believe that he was on a stage at E3. Because he's just some guy from Sweden. Like, he probably didn't expect it to get picked up by EA, and all of a sudden he's standing in front of thousands of people.
And then
it was great.
And then Plants vs Zombies came on again, and that really brought that high way down.
So
Because
this
I
part you tuned
remember
out again.
this horrifying zombie superhero costume leaping out on stage,
Mm-hmm.
and like my first thought was, "What in the flying fuck is that thing?"
What?
It's the dude wearing the costume of the new zombie class.
It's
Oh, God.
it was horrifying.
It was great. I
And
loved
then
it.
and then EA proceeded to make me regret ever asking them for gameplay footage, because that was 5 really excruciating minutes of gameplay about a game I could give less of a shit about.
I didn't mind that it was gameplay. I was pissed that it was the horde mode because I'm so tired with horde mode in games.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's got so
Oh, man.
overplayed.
I mean, you've got to do more than just throw a bunch of enemies at dudes and see how long you live. Just fucking make it interesting. Like
make it against the clock, or put some more objectives, or fucking let you buy upgrades in the middle of the match, or something.
Make an actual level you have to get through.
Sure, we can make Gauntlet.
Yeah.
Or Left 4 Dead.
And then this is when the sports segments started. Segments. Because it wasn't just one like long sports segment. They scattered this thing out.
Yep. It was funny is that I made a point to watch the whole thing.
Because
Aside from one moment.
Because the only thing that gave me happiness was the Hoop God.
Let's never forget Hoop God.
That whole segment like is a blur, but I remember the Hoop God.
Specifically, it's GAWD God.
Sure.
According to his Twitter.
Sure, we'll go with that. I don't care.
They popped up his Twitter handle at the end, and it's at the Hoop God.
I'm just looking this up right now.
I found it funny that they showed off the new like facial technology, and he's like, "Oh, that looks like me," and I was like, "But the skin tone is off. Like he is definitely a black guy, and it showed him as white, basically." And I was like, "How does it fuck up that? Like it got his face for the most part right, and somehow it missed his skin tone."
Yeah, he looked like a half white, half black guy.
Oh God.
He looks like The Rock, kind of.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Oh man.
But then, like, I don't know if you have any notes from the sports segments. If you do, now is the time to say them because really don't care.
For this section, I put sports in. I did all caps, underlined, bold, and italicized sports. Said I don't have much interest in sports, and I doubt many people at E3 do either. But I do admire that they gave all the information a fan might probably want.
Here's the thing. For me, it's that thing where if you know the next Madden is coming out this year, you have already decided whether or not you're buying it. Already.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter who you are in the entire world. You've already made that decision in your head. Sam, are you buying Madden this year?
Well, not Madden, but I was going to make a point that when I saw the new stuff they were doing for, what was it, NBA, I was like, I don't know, that looks kind of interesting. So, I was
Chris,
thinking about...
are you buying Madden this year?
When have I ever?
See,
yes.
He's already made a choice, and so have I. And so is every fucking person on the entire planet.
Except for me. I'm just saying, like, I think there is merit to talking about what's new.
And it's the same for FIFA. We do not need to talk about these things. People have already made up their mind by now.
Well, for the people who do give a shit.
Yes, for the people like me, Brandon. There are people who can't be swayed one way or the other depending on the quality of the game. There are people who are not completely rigid in their buying decisions. Let's see what else I wrote. They took a small break from sports to talk about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which is their trading card game, and I said it's a trading card game, and that's all I was told because they didn't say anything about it.
They took a different break to talk about the Minions mobile game.
I wrote down hot timers.
What?
Because they didn't say it, but there are timers in that game.
What I wrote down is that I am legitimately impressed by the staying power of those Minions. Because there isn't a soul on Earth that remembers that movie, but they remember those Minions.
Funny, I always remembered the original trailer for Despicable Me before they changed it up a lot.
Yeah, like you don't remember Despicable Me at all, but you will remember those Minions.
I remember Despicable Me.
It is amazing how much staying power that design has. It's actually a pretty distinctive design, but it's like, man, they've overstayed their welcome.
Yep.
Let's see.
And by the way, the sports segments total up to over half an hour.
Oh, God.
I counted.
So let's see. I wrote down in all caps, italicized, bold, underline, sports again. And I wrote, yo, Pele got old.
About to say, did you write Pele in your notes? Because fucking Pele was there.
I wrote, yo, Pele got old. And then I listened to
about Pele?
I listened to about 3 minutes of his story, and I said, I skipped Pele's story. Sorry, Pele.
Yeah, you had to, because fucking, it was the most awkward thing in the entire press conference.
Oh,
Pele, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm really sorry.
Like, you're probably a nice guy. Like,
See,
you were probably legit.
This is why I don't watch the shows live. I much prefer to wait till after all the awkward shit is done, and then I could see the best parts on YouTube.
It's like, Pele, you were probably a legit good guy, but that was the most awkward thing I've seen on TV, on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was really bad.
Sorry, Pele, you seem like a great person, but I had no interest in your story.
You're a nice guy. I'm gonna let you finish, but we gotta get to other stuff in this press conference.
I'm curious what he
Like,
talked
we
about
gotta
now.
get to the fucking best game that's ever gonna exist if they don't fuck it up.
Mirror's Edge 2?
Catalyst. Not 2.
Oh yeah, I
Not a
forgot to
sequel.
change that in my notes.
It's not a sequel, it's like a
It's a
remake
reboot.
or whatever.
It's a reboot.
I did make a quick note that says footage says it's in-engine but not in-game, which basically just means that it's a glorified
made a
trailer.
note that the speaker said she doesn't need any guns, and I'm going to fucking hold her to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to fucking hold EA. If you're listening to this, I'm going to fucking hold you to that. If
I'm
there
pretty
is a
sure
gun
EA's already
in
come out
fucking-
and said that they won't have guns in this one. Or at least she won't have guns, rather.
Hey, remember that second half of the game which everybody hated? Okay, we're not going to do that.
Like, I wonder if that, like, they said part of the reason they probably need to do a reboot was just, you know, obviously the game didn't latch on with many people, it makes sense. I think part of it was also because the way they set that universe up, they kind of had to reboot because everybody had guns in that one.
Yeah.
So they kind of had to reboot it to a world without guns
And
rather
also,
than just coming up with some
There
reason
were
for
just
them not
so
to have
much
any.
unused potential in that world in Mirror's Edge 1. Like, what is this underground? What do they do? Like, why are they opposing this place? Because otherwise, if I wasn't going on the main character's word, this looks like a really good place to live. It's nice and clean, and there's no crime.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing about privacy, right? It's how much are you willing to give up, how much privacy are you willing to give up for a better life?
Yeah, but like, what motivates those people in particular to be the guys that are anti-government surveillance? Why those guys in particular? Why not some other guy?
I don't know, you could ask any one person on the street. I'm sure that half of them
I
will tell
would
you
just
they're
like to
anti-surveillance.
know. I would just like to know, like, how that group got started. I'd like to know
Well-
more about that group because we don't actually ever see them in the original game.
I don't remember if it tied into that, but with Faith's backstory, they talked about how her mother died, and I believe her sister as well, during a riot.
Her sister is a police officer.
Right, so her mother was the one that died during the riot, and then her sister went on to become a police officer. She wanted to become against it. I think it's because the system
They
didn't
don't
protect.
actually say that her parents were killed. They imply it, but they never actually outright say it.
I thought she straight up said my parents died in a riot when she was like 8 or
No.
something.
All I know is that tattoo around the eye still has to fucking hurt.
Probably. Let's see what else.
Battlefront was like the only thing after that.
Well, I did write a long note about the open world style. It says, I wonder about the move to an open world. While that seems to be a natural end goal of every action game, I don't know if that would work well for a platformer. The beauty of Mirror's Edge first few levels is in their extremely tight construction that benefited from being only able to tackle them from one direction with multiple different paths. While open world may offer more replayability, I simply cannot see it being as good as the best levels in Mirror's Edge 1,
thing
though
with-
I'd like to be proven wrong.
With open world, and the reason why I'm okay with them doing it is because it's actually much more in line with the fundamental principles of parkour, of like the actual sport parkour. Because people forget that's an actual sport.
Yes, I have watched parkour competitions.
But like having
Cool
a
stuff.
large open area where your goal is to get to a destination and take whatever path you can find and then do it as fast as possible, that is the entire like core of parkour.
Brandon, you're fired.
I didn't intend. I realized the pun as I was saying it. I couldn't take it back at that point.
It has a lot of potential, and you're definitely right on that angle. I just do wonder because the level design has to be perfect from nearly any angle.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, and I guess one could argue that a cityscape isn't perfect from any angle when you're doing parkour with it, but it's like it doesn't mean I want to play a game where you have really bad terrain to work with. So it'll be curious to see. I'm definitely curious about the reboot. I find the plot a little generic of just like, look at this evil white guy. Look at how evil and white he is.
Did you see the memes of them comparing the guy in the trailer to the CEO of EA?
Oh god.
Because they are spitting images of each other.
Oh shit.
Dice just getting back at him. Mirror's Edge, like, I love that first game, flaws and all. So
Yeah.
the idea of a better Mirror's Edge would just blow my mind.
Pretty much, I'm in agreement. I love Mirror's Edge. I am an apologist of Mirror's Edge.
Yep. And so they went out with a real bang, with Battlefront.
I got a lot of weird responses about Battlefront on my Twitter feed. A lot
ask
of
you about
people were
Battlefront?
like, "Oh, this sucks. It's just Star Wars Battlefield."
Yeah.
And I'm
And
just sitting there like, "Well, what did
Your
you expect?"
so what you're saying is DICE is making a multiplayer shooter featuring vehicular action and squad-based combat. I wonder
seriously?
how it's gonna play.
Like
Just not in
seriously,
space.
what were you expecting from Star Wars Battlefront by DICE?
Like
space.
now that I think about it, the space part probably isn't there just because DICE doesn't know how to make space games.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna fault DICE for basically doing what they do best. People rag on it for being like Battlefield. Funny thing is, I have like 300 hours in Battlefield 3 and 4, and probably 300 something with Battlefield 2 included in Bad Company 1 and 2. I love the Battlefield franchise. I think it's amazing. I think they craft really well-designed games that are just have a lot of shitload of bugs, which is not really
It's
excusable.
like, can we get some of the guys from Pandemic on the phone?
Yeah. But the thing is that people like to bitch about it looking at Battlefield, but the thing about Battlefield games is that they're always well-designed. They have technical flaws, but they're well-made.
But I mean, like, I was legitimately surprised at the backlash that we're getting for just being Star Wars Battlefield.
Like, what did you expect?
What did you think was going to happen? Or someone's like, "Oh, this is too much like Battlefront 2." Again,
What else did you want?
what were you expecting?
Like, the one thing that
I
did make a note of...
dude, that makes them, they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. What do you want from them at that point?
I did say that, well, I'm super interested in it, and I would probably love it to death because it's a DICE shooter. I will definitely miss the land of space battle stuff, although I acknowledge that if Pandemic was going on that course, at some point they might have had to cancel it because that's just such a technical aspiration that probably just can't be reached at the time. The idea of, like, mixing land and space battles with a decent number of players.
Ubisoft talking about how they wanted to make the ship battles in Assassin's Creed multiplayer at one point, but then they realized it was just technically a clusterfuck to get that working.
Yeah, it sounded like a complete nightmare to try to build that. I did notice that they have a mix of a third and first-person camera, which I did write to date. I don't know of a video game, let alone a first-person shooter, that actually uses both perspectives well, because again, DICE has never made a third-person shooter before. Yeah. So my guess is it's there to appease Battlefront fans, because unless you played on PC, I don't think the console versions had a first-person camera. But if it were up to me, I probably would have just said, look, it's in first person. I'm sorry, that's what we know how to make, because I really think the third person is going to be bad. Because it's a completely different feeling. Like, different inertia and animations go into third-person cameras. The reason why Fallout 3 felt so bad is because there's no inertia in your movement, and it just feels really awkward.
What if you can play as Anakin or like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and shit? Like,
yeah, you can't play as Anakin Skywalker. And
I meant Luke. I meant Luke.
I'm just saying
one
you
of
can
those I give a
technically.
shit about.
I was like, you can't technically play as Anakin. He doesn't go by that. It just goes by the dude wearing the mask.
But yeah, that's basically that's EA.
Yeah, so I did write, what were the other notes I wrote about? I did notice a thing about the camera seems to have some kind of inertia attached to it, where it moves a little bit past or a little not as far as enough as the gun. It's hard to explain, but basically if you look at the original CG trailer, quote-unquote gameplay demo of Killzone 2, if you remember that, and how people thought it was gameplay, there's that sense of the gun moving independently of the camera. It seemed to have a bit of that in this game, which I've noticed a lot with these games coming out, is that inertia seems to play a factor in realism. Secondly, is the lightsaber stuff at the very end looked very janky.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like you just hit a button and the character just kind of flung his arms left and right without really moving. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to play out, because it wasn't really great in Battlefront 2 either, so it's not much of a high standard to go for. But the thing is, like, what they showed of it looked amazing. Like, to me, it's like, yo, it's Battlefield, but lasers and, like, really great air combat, which Battlefield never really had. So I'm like, sure, cool, let's do it. I'm down.
And now, on to Ubisoft.
Ubi. Is it Ubi? Ubi?
Doesn't
Ubi?
matter.
It's Ubisoft.
Any one of them is acceptable.
Can I call him Ubisoft?
Ubisoft opened up with a new South Park RPG that is not being made by Obsidian. It is called, and I swear this is true, The Fractured Butthole.
But it's butt space hole. So, for those of you who don't know, in Dark Souls 2, you can write your own messages. And the most popular message on there was that you could write, butt, space, hole. So you could always say things like, try two-handing butthole, or beware butthole. So, the thing about this is it strikes me as weird because it's very South Park. The only problem with South Park is that its reliance on being topical. So when this game comes out, who's gonna get that Dark Souls reference by that point? Like, who's gonna buy that game?
I did not know that was a Dark Souls reference. I just thought it was just a bad pun.
No, it's a bad Dark Souls reference. Because when I played Dark Souls 2, I'm very familiar with the butthole joke.
Because I legit don't give a shit about South Park, so I'm gonna let you two take it from here.
No, I don't like South Park either. That's the funny thing. Is that in my notes, I literally wrote, I don't think I like South Park anymore. Like, when I played the Stick of Truth, I was like, this game seems well designed, good on Obsidian. I don't give a shit about South Park anymore, I'm sorry.
I mean, for me, it was, like, despite the fact when I had played that original game, I hadn't watched South Park in a good long time. But I was able to play this, and I still thought it was super funny, and I was really into it. So I have a feeling I'm going to be into this too.
It seems like it.
And they kept saying butthole over and over and over again during the reveal. And I was like, yeah, that's a good pun. You've made it once. Stop doing it.
Yeah. Imagine playing Dark Souls.
And imagine if the pun guy is saying stop doing a pun. Imagine how bad it must be.
Hey, Brandon, I want you to imagine a world where you're a guy named Sam and you love Dark Souls 2. You play it for 120 hours, and every time you play it, you see the same joke at the same place with the same characters in the same time. Like, every time you go to the Emerald Herald, you always see the butthole joke. It gets old really quick.
Yeah, I imagine.
So the idea that this game's title is that, and whenever people have to talk about it, I'm sure journalists are going to say it once and be like, oh, it's so funny.
The fractured
and I'm like,
butthole.
But because I played Dark Souls 2, this is the worst joke I could possibly think of for that game. Because it's already old. It's not topical anymore.
It was old for me by the fourth time they said it.
I mean, the other thing that's going to date it a little bit, I mean, looking at it, obviously they're also tapping into, like, the superhero stuff that they did on South Park.
Yes.
The fucking text looks like the Age of Ultron font. It's...
Yep. Like, that's the problem with the South Park game, is that South Park is referential by its nature, so you have to reference things that you would hope would be
that
timeless.
Are relevant and topical.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, you either want it to be relevant to the day, like their TV show, and it seems like their game, for the most part, they just reference video games and things that have longer standing memories.
I mean, the same could very well be said about the show. I mean, because that's all it is.
Yeah, but the show, like, the episodes come out as the events transpire. With the game, it's like you design it and
you
then you
have
have to wait.
You're
it's
really
like
waiting
a
years.
year later until,
Yeah.
You were hoping by now that by then people still care about Dark Souls 2, which I guess is not a very unrealistic. That's very realistic, but
well, I mean, Dark Souls 3, they I think said they changed the message so it won't do that. Like Bloodborne couldn't make notes like that. They took out the words "whole." They took out
like how Demon Souls had the problem with sticky white stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing being, like, you know, how much improvement can they really do on that engine? Because it's like your only job is to make it look like the show. It's not like you have to.
Well, in the trailer, they outright said the combat in our first game was terrible. Like, in the trailer for the game, I think it was like Cartman who says that or something. So it seems like they're overhauling the gameplay, and it looks exactly the same.
Okay.
Because it looked like the show perfectly.
Yeah, I don't care either way, absolutely. But sure.
Also, I did find it like, I get that it's a jab, and consumers find it funny to be like, the combat's terrible, and it's like, I feel bad if I was. Like, if I knew someone who worked at Obsidian, I'd be like, I'm sorry, man. I know you worked really hard on that combat.
Yeah,
the fucking
it is a different developer this time. It is not Obsidian.
I know, but, like, the idea that, like, if you worked on that system or whatever, and the next game comes out, and they're just like, I bet in the game they'll probably reference
what I'm
how
saying
bad...
is that if it was Obsidian developing this game, that would be a lot different than a non-Obsidian developer.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the same series, bashing Obsidian.
But it is just kind of weird to just be like, hey, we took this franchise from you, you did all right, but also this part sucks. Like, just I don't know. It's like, I know it's South Park and they're designed to be crass and crude,
juvenile,
but that just seemed kind of like a weird jab to me. I don't know. That one just struck me as really off.
Yeah, but I think it's time to move on from South Park because I'm about to throw up.
Like, it's like if you like South Park, it seems like the people just fucking went nuts over it because they like it. I'll try the game again at some point, but I think I'm just past South Park.
If you don't like South Park, then don't buy the game because that's basically all it is.
Yeah. I did make a quick note between this and the next game where I said 1 minute with Aisha Tyler, and I already want her to never show up to a game conference again.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that because I sincerely think that Aisha Tyler gets far, far too much hatred.
So here's the thing that I should specify this because we talked about this before we started the show. I don't hate Aisha Tyler. I fucking love her in Archer. I think she's probably a fantastic person, but just her in the conference, the jokes that she makes, either because she makes them or because they're written for her, are terrible.
I mean,
awful.
Have you seen any of Ubisoft's conferences ever, even the ones that don't have Aisha Tyler? That is totally them writing that shit. I guarantee
But
it.
Aisha Tyler is the one who's up front, so I have to place the blame on somebody, and she's the one who's standing there in front of me.
I blame Ubisoft, honestly.
Like, if she has a writer, that guy needs to be fired.
even during the conference, like half the jokes she said just fell completely flat.
They did.
Like there was a lot of like 3 people clapping like that
But
to
like,
some of her jokes.
I am still traumatized by Mr. Caffeine. I still have that trauma.
I also wonder if like
she
not
looks
even,
like a saint in comparison.
Like not even like a writer, but if there's like somebody that's like, okay, so when you go out there this time, like, can you say this and maybe make a dick joke? You know, kick that dude in the nuts.
Do you remember #Girlwood?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like I think this speaks to the larger problem, which, it depends on the person. I'm sure some people love her and what she talks about, but I feel like that just kind of makes the industry look bad. Like, it makes us look like we're 12 years old. And not to say that there can't be adult humor or whatever, but when you're just making dick jokes, it's like, God damn it, when I'm going to E3, I want a professional conference with some nice jokes, some nice gamer-related humor, instead of just, like, this really lowbrow dick and ass jokes.
I mean, if anything, at least she's not out there in a fucking thong trying to take her top off her.
Yeah, it was no like weirdly sexual humor on her part, which was nice.
She'd probably be dressed in the same way a dude would be, probably. Which
because honestly,
you didn't see it. She was just wearing a shirt and pants. Yeah. Like she looked fine. It was definitely just a lot of like. It depends on what you want to go to E3 for, but I like to go for the mostly professional with some jokes, which was every other conference.
I do blame Ubisoft for that. Do not get me wrong. I place the blame on that one squarely on Ubisoft personally.
Yeah,
because even when it's like an otherwise good presenter, it's just like that with Ubisoft every fucking time.
I just don't like Ice Tyler that much as a demonstrator. I like her a lot as a voice actor.
Yeah, like I wish they would just stop trying to be funny.
Just give it to him. Like every other conference just gives it to him straight. It's like, look, here's the game. Here's a little quip from our development team about said game. Let's show you the game.
Do you remember the Joel McHale conference? It was about that awkward, and Joel McHale is a genuinely good comedian.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm blaming her. Even so, I don't think I'd want her to appear again. Even if she had great writing, it's just I just want the fucking people who work at the company to be there.
People in video game marketing still
I just want the straight.
Aisha Tyler is actually employed by Ubisoft as like a PR person.
Oh, great. Anyway, I was gonna say,
so let's talk about the fucking game now.
Well, I was going to say right before that aside from that, Ubisoft actually did pretty great as far as, like, every game they announced, they tried to give a release date, and it seems like every game, they had a beta going, and they always had it playable on the show floor, which is really cool. Not relevant to us, but that was pretty neat of them, because I didn't see anybody else do that.
The next game they showed off was For Honor, which I actually thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I like the mix of the different military styles. Like, the 3 that they showed was, like, European Knights, Vikings, like, Scandinavian Vikings, and Japanese Samurai.
Yeah, for those who aren't aware, like, it's basically a chivalry. It's a 4v4 medieval, like, multiplayer sword fighting game.
Yes, in third person, though.
Yeah.
And I did make a note of this, because earlier we talked about the idea of AI enemies. So for this one, I did say another game that uses AI to create the feeling of a larger battle a la Titanfall. Still a great idea.
Yeah.
Because you can basically run through, and there were literally like 50 to 100 guys just warring it out. And in the gameplay demo they showed, they basically 2 of the players met up, and they were fighting in the middle of that, and at some point one of them ran off to like a circular arena so they could fight. But the idea that you could be fighting in the middle of like 50 other people is pretty interesting.
I just want to point out that presenter was like really, really into presenting For Honor.
I couldn't tell if it was kind of awkward or if he really was just into it.
I think he was genuinely into it.
He looked the part because he came out wearing like rings on every finger. He had
a long fucking beard.
He had long hair and a big beard, and he was like, "For Honor!" Like he was like shouting.
Wow!
I was like, "Damn, this guy's like fucking
like
pumped
this
about
guy
this game.
could sell me anything."
OxyClean!
Like he's probably the son of Billy Mays.
Yeah. Hello, my name is
Lord
Jeremy
British
Mays.
ain't got shit on me. Like
yeah, it was pretty cool. At first, I found it kind of awkward, but then you're right. There was a really genuine undertone to it. That this guy was like really into military combat.
That guy should be presenting every game in all the press conferences.
Well, it just seemed like this just seemed like by the look of him and all that, it seems like this is the kind of guy who's making the exact game he wants to make. Yeah. Like it seems like he was really into like the idea of military
sword fighting game.
Yeah,
and it's gonna happen whether Ubisoft publishes it or not.
And that was really cool. It was another case like with the Unraveled, where just the guy seemed genuinely interested in his own product.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about that because like that looks fun to play.
Yeah,
God, this looks like this is what Rise should have been. Like,
I was playing Rise last night. It really should have been.
Why?
Because it was $10.
God damn it,
'cause
Sam.
no one
will
gives a
count.
shit.
Oh, it's not a good game.
Anyway, after that, they showed the crew, and I didn't care about the crew.
Man, you're just really bad at this.
I
Crew Wild
remember,
Run.
I remember tweeting, and I quote, "Oh yeah, the crew, fuck off."
Like that
So,
game's out. What did they?
It's an expansion for it.
Oh.
So I think it was pretty cool, if only because it basically adds motorcycles, monster trucks, and it seems to offer some particular off-roading courses. And I said more games need off-roading because I legitimately think that's an underrated style of racing.
Yes, but it's also the crew.
I mean,
Yeah,
everything I've heard is that
motorcycle.
the crew plays fine. It's just there's not much to it beyond just
A
playing it.
motorcycle. Now you can get off to climb the tower to activate the beacon to expose the map.
I don't know.
But I was
The crew is if I could get the crew for $20, I'd probably get it. It's I love racing games.
But then after the crew, Ubisoft showed this trailer of a cat riding a unicorn, and then revealed that it was part of a Trials Fusion expansion.
It's called Trials Fusion Awesome Level Max.
It's a cat with boots riding a unicorn.
Also, I should point out that the unicorn spits fire.
Yes.
So,
I don't know what's going on anymore, but I want a part of it.
The only thing I wrote down is how do I flip the unicorn for points?
Yeah, it's
how does that game play? Does the unicorn run? Does it glide in the air?
It's like, here you go. We made a level based on an acid trip.
Yeah, I don't know. I might get it. I have Trials Fusion. It's all right.
And
I got kind of tired of Trials.
Then
Division
after that,
again, which I wrote.
Well, we'll get to the Division. We'll get to the Division.
Well, I mean, we're done with that. I just wrote they showed the Division again, and I already put out all my points about the Division.
Oh, did you? What do you think about the talking during the
demo?
I
did write a note about that. A lot of people criticize the role-playing nature of the commentary, but when I played Arma 3 7 years ago, my teammates and I spoke like that, and it was one of the best experiences I've had playing a game.
From an outsider's perspective,
it looks stupid as hell.
It sounds like robots imitating the human tongue.
Yeah. The thing is, though, is that I've played Arma, and I talked to a friend of mine, Bayo, who also used to play Arma and other strategy games like SOCOM, and if you get into that mindset, it'll tenfold make your game that much better. If you really just want to get into that unit,
it totally
looks dumb, but when you play, it's fun. Even with Arma, when I look at legitimate Arma players like Shacktack or something like that, it always sounds goofy because you realize that you're watching someone play a video game.
I would question your sanity, no joke, if I heard you do that.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's why I find it so funny is that people criticize it probably because they've never played a game like that, and the difference between watching it and playing it is immense. So when I talked to my friend Beto about that, I was like, Beto, I totally would RP the Division if I could. And he's like, dude, you want to play the Division like that? And I was like, hell yes. Because I used to roll with an Arma crew where I was a squad leader, and people addressed me by my last name, and they'd actually listen to me. It was kind of incredible.
Major Callahan?
Yes. I think it was either that or it was Asher, I don't remember.
Probably Asher at the time.
It's probably Captain Asher or something like that. But that was just, I remember writing about that briefly, but it's an incredible experience when you have people, talking about how many hostiles there are, and you have people climbing watchtowers and spotting people. It's fascinating gameplay. And I will bring that up at the end of the press conference with the last game they showed, but people criticize role-playing style, but it's like D&D or whatever. If you watch it looks dumb.
When
if you
I'm
play
playing
it's
a
great.
game, I say there's two bad guys over there.
Yeah. I mean,
why aren't you covering me, you asshole?
So it's a similar thing to if you watch someone play D&D, wouldn't you think that's just the most ridiculous thing in the world? If you just watch someone go talk out their spells and what they're doing, it's like that. It looks ridiculous, but when you're in that mindset, when you're really immersed in that universe, it's incredible. It's just you have to find people who are willing to play with.
So after that, they announced NO 2205. I think that was the year.
Yeah,
and it's basically a city building sim in both Earth and space. And
yeah,
if you have anything to say about that, go ahead, because I got nothing.
There was an NO game before this. I think it was 2017 or something like that. So the series has existed before. It's basically a Ubisoft Civ game, except that this Civ game, it doesn't stop when you launch into space. It continues in space.
Yeah.
Which I think was interesting. Let's see. After that, I wrote AC Syndicate guy is pretty hot.
Wait, what? Oh, right, because the cosplayer.
Yeah, that she took a that was one of the terrible jokes about like you
I
have
was
rickets.
honestly for a second unsure if that was CGI or a cosplayer.
He looked just like Jacob.
Really did. Like seriously.
Like I think he even had like the like some kind of scar in his eyebrow
Good
where like
job
no hair was
on
growing.
that guy though. Like
Yeah,
really.
he's probably since he said that Ubisoft invited him, he's probably a professional cosplayer. Like it's probably what he does. But I thought it was pretty
then
cool.
they went to Just Dance 4 and that was excruciating.
Here's my note for Just Dance 2016. Please make Jason Derulo stop.
That was the performer's name, and I was making notes.
Yeah.
I didn't remember his name because I
So,
only refer to him as
funniest-
"Get Off the Stage" guy because I don't want to see you ever again.
The funniest damn thing I saw was I was checking Twitter intermittently because I was at work, and at one point everybody was like, "Oh, it's Usher," and I was like, "Usher's at Ubisoft?" And I looked at it, I was like, "Motherfucker, that's not Usher, that's Jason Derulo."
People on my Twitter were just complaining for him to get off the stage.
I saw like several people thinking it was Usher. I'm like, no, Usher's much better than that.
Because I remember Aisha Tyler said that song's a hit, but I heard it as that song is shit.
Same difference, really. It's a top 40
And-
song.
And I was like, I am choosing to go with the latter interpretation because you were getting in the way of me having E3 fun.
Yeah, so I also wrote, it occurred to me at the very end of that, like the last second they announced the title again, real quick, like the release date, the whole time I thought they were talking about Dance Central. And I was like, oh wait, no, it's Just Dance, completely different franchise.
No, it's just Dance.
Yes. But Dance Central is the Harmonix game, if I remember correctly, that is Kinect exclusive. Just Dance comes out, even this new one, 2016, comes out on the original Wii, the 360, the PS3, the PS4, the Xbox One, and the Wii U.
It sells like mad, and I'm not entirely sure how.
Dancing game.
Yeah.
And it no longer requires a Kinect or a PlayStation Eye or anything like that. You can just use your phone. But they never specified if it uses the phone's camera or if it acts like a Wiimote on the Wii version where you just kind of move the remote around. I don't know.
So then they go into Rainbow Six.
Woo! Rainbow Six!
Tell me
that's
about
serious.
Rainbow Six, Samuel.
Terrorist Hunt is back! And they stupidly renamed it Terror Hunt. But Terrorist Hunt is a mode that, I don't know if Vegas was the first one to introduce it. It must have been before that. Which is basically just a mode where, at least in the original Terrorist Hunt, there was a set number of terrorists. It could be anywhere from like 10 to 100 within any given multiplayer map, and you and 3 friends could basically just hunt them down and die in like one hit. A very,
'Cause-
very interesting mode.
I'm not a Tom Clancy guy, so all I was thinking is that, for a team that calls themselves Team Rainbow, these guys sure aren't that flamboyant.
They did make a comment at one point where he was like, who was it? It was like Judd or something like that. He's like, hey Judd, can you get that door? And he kind of like leaned into he like pushed the microphone close and he's like, anything for you, baby. And I heard a couple people in the background going, woo!
It's Team Rainbow.
But yeah, Terrorist Hunt, it's one of those things like, if you were into Terrorist Hunt, you could understand why people got so fucking over the top excited about that, because it's one of the best modes in that whole game. And it's so simple in execution. But in this one, instead of, I'm sure they'll probably have the classic just hunt down enemies, but this one also has a bomb defusal mode. So just think of it as, it's the whole map is available to you, and you can just free roam, just tackle the objective any way you want. That's basically how Terrorist Hunt works. So I was super stoked about that. Like, I love basically all Tom Clancy games, and I have for a long time, so I'm really excited for Siege.
And then they showed Trackmania, which actually caught my interest, surprisingly enough. 'Cause
Yeah,
it looked like a nice little arcade racer, and I kind of like those.
Yeah, have you ever played a Trackmania game before?
I have not.
They're insane. They're
Yeah,
bonkers.
it's weird. It's like usually what's funny about those is like the biggest hook is how people make their own fucking tracks and do all kinds of crazy shit because of the tool set that it gives you. Although last I heard, it is not great as far as driving mechanics go.
No.
That's a shame.
They really shot themselves in the foot with Trackmania 2, which was because they released this Stadium and then Canyon and Valley, and because of like they split up the user base, so basically the whole thing just died immediately.
It's a shame.
But it looks pretty cool. I think the one button create a course thing could be really interesting, but I
Do you remember
worry
Mod
that
Nation Racers?
Yeah.
I missed that.
yeah,
Yeah,
miss-
I liked it.
I miss good video games too. So the thing is, they have like the one button create a track mode, which I think is interesting, but I do worry that half the time it's going to create tracks that are like 99% impossible. Because like I'm sure the computer just runs an algorithm that says, yes, the player can go through this. It's like, yes, but how good do they have to be to get through this track? Like, it doesn't seem like there's any kind of difficulty scaler for like, I want a really hard track or I want a
Someone will
really
have
easy
to
one.
see.
So I'll be curious about the testing on that. But yeah, it's Trackmania, dude. Also, they apparently said there's VR Trackmania, and I said that probably makes me want to throw up just thinking about it. Because those games are so fast and you're oftentimes
Frenetic,
upside
yeah.
down.
They're very kinetic.
Yeah. So I think it's cool that they're still pushing Trackmania. I just really hope they don't fuck it up this time with the whole releasing multiple expansions and just segmenting the user base. I don't remember where it was. It must have been earlier. I made a comment about how I've noticed that developers these days are doing free maps and such. And I was going to say, I nominate that for best trend of 2015. Is this whole, like, look, free maps and free updates for, like, Splatoon and Evolve. And one of these games, it might have been Division or something like that, they said was going to have free updates forever.
So to move on,
Oh, it's Garden Warfare 2.
they showed a trailer for AC Syndicate, and that's about it.
Yes, I did say I worry.
Which honestly disappointed me quite greatly.
Yeah, I do wonder because we haven't seen too much of Jacob and what he's like, but just the way he acts, I worry that he's going to be another Connor or Altair. Like, he does have charisma, but he just seems kind of like a jackass. Or just like a general, like when
I
he
never
did like the whole
thought
thing
that
where he
Connor
said,
was a jackass, but I just kind
Well-
of thought that he was manipulated by everything.
yeah, or
He
like
had no will of his own.
I also wrote just a blankly badass protagonist, badass in quotes, because the whole thing, like, he sits backwards in the chair and he's like, "You gonna join me?" And you're like, "No," and then he just like kills everybody and walks out. And it's like, yeah, but like fucking Ezio would have made a joke about it.
And
then,
I mean, we've seen
yeah.
nothing of the sister up until
Yeah.
At that point, we had seen nothing of the sister.
It's almost like Ubisoft really only knows how to make two characters for this series: somebody who's hard ass and doesn't talk much, or somebody who jokes around a lot and is charismatic.
Yeah,
and
Like,
we'll get
that-
into that during the Sony event.
yeah, but like they did have fucking what was it? They had Ezio and Edward. So I'm just like, if they knew those were the two most like protagonists, why don't they just shoot for that every time? And it seems like they just kind of waver back and forth. I don't know.
I would like more protagonists who are assassins, but like don't fully adhere to the creed.
Sure.
Just for like variety's sake at this point.
Wasn't that kind of what Edward was like? Wasn't that his whole deal?
Yeah, but then he wasn't really an assassin until the end of the game.
Yeah, fair enough. All right,
But
so now
after
we
that,
get the other awesome
They
reveal.
showed they promised me something that would surprise me, so I assumed Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Nope, even
And then
better.
I saw the trailer and I was pissed.
I was excited. Because I don't give a shit about Beyond Good and Evil 2. I'm so sorry. You know what I do give a shit about, though, is one of my favorite
Tom
French...
Clancy's Ghost Recon.
Wildlands. While I think that the setting
Really?
is boring as shit, it's a South American
So,
drug cartel
Tell
setting.
me about the guy who looks like Aang from Avatar.
The thing is, like, the whole setting with the whole drug cartels and all that, I know that's boring and all that, but, like, I was a huge, massive fan of Ghost Recon. I always have been. I love the way that game plays.
I have in my notes, quote, a massive open world.
Yeah.
Because I remember I tweeted, like, oh yeah, like every Ubisoft game.
I do wonder about that until I'll get to my point at the...
Let's get to the radio towers.
Judging by the way the game plays, I doubt that, but I'll get to that in just a second. Just to say, that they at least say they are leveraging the open world in a very Mercenaries 1 style way, in two ways in that. One is that you can tackle objectives different ways, which is not wholly unique. Games have always said that, but they've definitely demonstrated, like, you know, you can do a full frontal approach, you can do stealth, which you could do in, like, Future Soldier or early Ghost Recons. Or, you know, you can do, like, weird subversive techniques. While I don't care for the drug cartel stuff, I like the idea of a South American setting. Like, the first thing they showed was just a giant-ass mountain, and I love just wide, expansive, beautiful, like, natural vistas.
Here's
I live
something
for that
else
stuff.
I wanna bring up in this context is I am not a huge Tom Clancy fan. I will admit that as I say this.
Yeah. Whereas I am a massive super fan. Like,
We
I love the
have
books, the movies, and the games.
The Division,
Uh-huh.
Rainbow Six, and Ghost Recon. They are all Tom Clancy games. We have 3 Tom Clancy games outstanding right now. Does it not seem like they're kind of leaning on that brand a bit too much?
Well, it's funny because Rainbow Six was only the one book.
Yeah.
And Ghost Recon and The Division are not Tom Clancy books. They were written. The books for Ghost Recon were written by David Michaels, and Division doesn't
It's
have
like
a book.
that is a very active man for someone who's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, would
That's
it
the
be
thing
any?
is, I made a point with Siege that I do really dislike that they are continuing to use his name, not because he's dead, even though that's a very respectful thing if they would, but just because it's a weird branding thing of like these brands can probably stand on their own at this point. Like it doesn't need to say Tom Clancy's The Division because he has no involvement whatsoever in that entire game.
Especially
Like,
now.
It's a little disingenuous, would probably be the way I'd put it. Like back in the early days with Red Storm, he had a lot of involvement with it, and then gradually he just kind of left it more and more to the other heads. And it seemed like at some point they should have just leaned off of that and just said, "Look, it's Ghost Recon. It's not Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon. It's just Ghost Recon. We made this game ourselves. It's our own universe. Like, fuck it." If they wanted to keep saying Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six, I get it because that's just paying respect to the guy who wrote the book. But like these ones are not written or otherwise in all touched by Tom Clancy. The open world thing, though, with Wildlands that I do find interesting is that at the very end, they basically showed that you can attack different targets across the land, and this reminds me a lot of the Deck 52 system of Mercenaries 1, which if they pull it off in that
What
way...
the fuck did you just say to me?
That's why I was wondering why you weren't excited, because you never played Mercenaries 1. You just have a hole in your life.
I did.
Yeah.
I like that game.
Yeah, it's that system was really neat, and I would like to see it used more. So the idea that you can basically recreate that system of like you can attack anybody, you can basically topple an empire one guy at a time. So I think it's really interesting. I like the setting. I think the combat's always been pretty good, and if it does involve that sort of Deck 52 style system, this could be like the best Ghost Recon in a long time.
And it's a better subtitle than the Devil's Cartel.
God.
So let's move on to Sony at this point because Sony's conference was about fulfilling all of your dreams.
Yeah, I only got about halfway was the problem, and then I had to quit.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, I was really hoping to have an opinion on each of these, but we'll just go with what I've
So
got.
let's go with what you saw first, which was the very first thing they showed on the
They
on the
had to either
conference
do it
was
first or last. Was their two options?
they
and they went first.
started with The Last Guardian.
I get that joke.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it wasn't even that. It was gameplay footage this time. Like it's like, hey, this game's actually running at this point. It's a thing. It's an actual thing.
It's officially
And
not
like
dead.
literally everyone on Twitter pissed their pants
Yes.
at the same
Collectively,
time.
Kohl's was sold out of jeans because everybody had to buy new pants. But the notes I did make is that while I think it's really interesting, I'm only kind of bummed because of the two games that studios made, which is Eco and Shadow of the Colossus, they were very different games in both their aesthetic and their gameplay. So I'm kind of disappointed this one is basically just shades of Eco, even though it does have the climbing style of Shadow of the Colossus. Like it looks like the exact same system ripped out.
It does, yeah.
So I'm a bit bummed about that, but I also understand it was such a small group.
Also,
and it's the same creator. I imagine that he probably had a specific vision for this series.
I can almost guarantee that Bird is going to die in the end.
You don't say.
Possibly even before the end.
I don't know, like, Shadow of the Colossus, or Team Eco games have always been kind of weird about their subversion. Like, Eco had that really weird ending that some people thought they both died, and then Shadow of the Colossus,
Be
like,
prepared for one or both of them to die.
Yeah, and then Shadow of the Colossus, which I'm going to spoil this, like, the main protagonist gets transformed into the devil child that is the character of Eco. Like, that was what he had to sacrifice to save his girlfriend, lover, wife, sister, friend, acquaintance, person on the road. Whatever.
So then...
And the horse didn't die.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the horse is alive.
Horse survived.
But I really don't have much to say about The Last Guardian by itself.
2016, baby! Maybe! Until they push it to 2017. Like,
But
I think it's cool that at least it's being made. And it was funny that Shuhei Yoshida himself was like, I'm so glad I could finally tell you guys about this game. Because I'm sure you got comments on Twitter like every day going, where's The Last Guardian?
But what I saw next really interested me, which was the trailer for Horizon Zero Dawn.
By Guerrilla Games, who have previously made Killzone. Weird.
For those of you who missed it, which is probably not a lot of you at this point, it is a world where it's a post-apocalypse where all of humanity seems to have been eliminated by cyber dinosaurs.
Robo-dinos. I'm not kidding. It's robot dinosaurs, but they bleed
And
for some reason.
Okay, I'm liking this.
Play as like some of the last people on Earth. You are a hunter-gatherer, and you hunt robo dinosaurs.
I'm not sure if it's last people on Earth so much as a new civilization, because they describe them as tribes, and they show settlements building up.
So
So
is this
it's the-
But the
monster
point is,
hunter?
you hunt robo dinosaurs with
Yeah, is
primitive
this-
weapons.
So is this
No,
monster
you don't.
hunter?
Use a crossbow that shoots electric bolts. Were you not looking at that? It's a bow, but it shoots electric
I must be
bolts.
looking
and
away from the screen at the time.
No. You're right that it's a bow, like it's a standard bow and arrow. But the thing is, like, you have steel tip bolts, and they showed up a radial menu at some point.
Oh,
Explosive bolts and electric bolts.
I do remember the part where she ripped a cyber dino's eyes out and then used it to blast another one.
Yeah, that was no. She shot off the like a sort of the top of it that had guns on it, because it was a robot dinosaur with
Yeah.
guns on top, and she shot it at it. So it's kind of, that's what I found so weird about it, is that the aesthetic of the people is very like indigenous Native American kind of style, very tribal.
Tribal.
Yeah.
And then she has a fucking cybernetic bow and arrow that shoots explosive bolts at robot
This-
dinosaurs in the post-apocalypse.
Like, I'm watching this. This looks pretty dope. Like,
Yeah, I know, it's fucking awesome.
It looks.
I like
I
this.
just. It reminds me a lot of Enslaved Odyssey to the West, and sort of.
It reminds me
yeah,
of that
yeah,
meets
yeah.
Shadow of Mordor in
Sure.
a way.
I'm definitely. I wrote down in my notes how long until we start shooting people. The most dangerous game.
Ooh.
Because that's the only sad point, is that it's gonna be you shoot dinosaurs and you do
I
all the
would
hunting
be
stuff,
totally content
and then you're gonna end up
doing
killing
the-
people.
I would be totally content just hunting cyber dinos for an entire
That's
game.
the thing, is I would like to, but at some point in the story they're gonna be like, you have to kill people now, and it's like, of course I do, because I have to kill people in every fucking game where I have a gun.
Yeah.
And
And
that
man,
game looks rad though. That
that
might
looks-
be like biggest surprise, was just like Guerrilla Games is making a post-apocalypse robo dinosaur hunter.
yeah,
That's weird.
exciting.
super weird.
man. And then after that, they unveiled a trailer for the new Hitman game. Just a trailer.
Oh, is that in there? I
Yeah.
didn't make note of that. I made a note during the Square Enix conference. So it's a reboot, right?
I
maybe?
believe it actually does take place in the Hitman world. Like, it's
Yeah.
not a reboot. It's just they are focusing more. They're going very story light this time around to focus more on the assassinations, which
Yeah.
they really, honestly should do.
Well,
Because
people
Hitman
are,
is not a game that's really good when it has a story. It really
guess-
isn't.
people weren't wondering. I guess maybe people weren't saying it's a reboot, but because assuming it's 47, that it looks like he's in his like 20s.
It looks
So
like the
assuming
guy
it's
from
like-
the new Hitman movie.
So the basic assumption is that it's like the earliest chronological Hitman game, and that's why it's just called Hitman.
It looks like the guy from the Hitman movie because it is. But what they revealed is that the PS4 version of the game will receive exclusive contracts that the other versions will not. Which
So buy it on the PC.
kind of still pisses me off.
Well, I mean, the Xbox guys did that too. It seems like they're getting a lot more like feverish about grabbing exclusive
Yeah,
stuff.
and I hate exclusive shit just in the general sense.
Yeah,
it
I think
annoys,
the problem
it
is
annoys
that
me.
I feel like the problem is that the more they try to claw at this stuff, the smaller the bits they become, which just makes it even more annoying. That it's like, oh, it's just like before it was like expansions or whatever. Now it's just like, oh, it's like 2 weapons, and that's just more annoying because it's just 2 fucking weapons. Like, just give me all the
Yeah.
content. I don't know. That
And
game
we'll get
looks-
more into this during the Square Enix trailer or the Square
Yeah.
Enix press event.
I guess ideally though, one would hope it's like Blood Money. I guess is the one people like.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like, and I hope that's the case.
Yeah. I guess we can if
Have
we
you
want to
played
wait
Blood
till
Money, Sam? If not, you should.
I've played a few levels, like half of it. Yeah, I was like, I do have like one other thought on it, but I guess we can wait till Square. Just
So
wrap it
then
up
that
with
was then they showed the Street Fighter V trailer,
Mm,
and they think they showed Cammy in there.
yes, Cammy and Birdie from Alpha.
They have been confirmed to be in the game now.
Yes,
That's all I've got to say about Street Fighter.
So I've noticed a lot of Twitter comments pointing some stuff out that makes me kind of uncomfortable. In terms of
Like?
both Cammy and Chun-Li, it's the thing about Cammy's suit. Some people got like some still screens from the trailer. Cammy's suit is so skin tight that it actually goes into her belly button, and you can see her nipples at all times. At least I think that's what I saw during the screens.
I play Soul Calibur, dude. That doesn't shock me at all.
Yes, but this is Street Fighter. And the second thing
Yeah.
is that somebody posted a gif of the character selection stuff. You know, when it says, like, the fighters are ready to battle. And it shows Chun-Li, and she has Dead or Alive style breast physics. Like, they swing in a circular motion. Like, not just up and down. They were literally swinging in 4 directions. And it's like, this is Street Fighter, man.
Holy
Like, this-
shit!
Like, I looked at this, and I was like, why does Street Fighter do this? Street Fighter lives on the legacy of its name alone. Like, it doesn't need this. It never needed this.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And just there's been a lot of general comments about how the characters have become way more sexualized than they ever were before. And it's just like, this is uncomfortable just because it's like Street Fighter is mostly a competitive game.
With the exception of Birdie, who was unfortunately gained a lot of weight.
Yeah. But it was just really weird to see that and be like, what the fuck, guys? Like,
Yeah, it's like,
why?
I remember
What's the point of adding breast physics to this game?
Yeah, like I remember hearing like early stories about how like people were pissed off just at like some of the mirror reveals of Street Fighter V. Now I'm just starting to see more of that like come to fruition. Like it's just like Street Fighter
it's
4 got
creepy.
enough shit for like how unappealing some of the aesthetic was to that.
Yeah, and not that I would accept it, but if it started the series off, like if it was like the first Street Fighter had like super sexualized females and breast figures, I'd at least understand it. It'd be like Dead or Alive. Like, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. But the idea that they wait until, what is this, like the 30th game of the franchise to be like, yeah, now let's add breast physics, because that's what people want in 2015. And it's like, I thought we were getting away from this, man. Like, I thought we were past this as a people. It's just bizarre. And like I say, it's just
on from this because this is going to just make us feel bad.
I already feel bad every day.
Let's talk about No Man's Sky. 'Cause that's what was next.
Sure. You can
It's
fly
a
around.
thing. I mean, they didn't really show much new, at least not from what I remember.
There are destructible environments. He pointed out every planet is fully destructible. I don't know if that applies to land, because if you could geomod the shit out of a planet, I would buy that in a heartbeat.
I would love to see the
If I
planets
could
blow up.
geomod to the middle of a core, I would
What
just die.
if you could like literally just blow up an entire planet?
There's probably some ability to do that. I did say I worry that since the planets are generated algorithmically, most of them will contain the minimum needed density of quote-unquote stuff to be created and will mostly be hollow. Because they have said before that it's like because there are millions of planets, they don't design them, they just get generated. So it's kind of the Trackmania thing where I worry about algorithms doing the worst possible thing, which in this case just means empty planets. Because it's like, how many planets can you really go to before that becomes boring? Unless they're all... Because, like, the idea of algorithms is, like, it goes on forever, and it's like, yeah, but there's no craft to them. It's like, imagine you went to, like, a Mass Effect game or something like that, and it's like every planet's just algorithmic. Like, how much fun would that really be?
You mean like Mass Effect 1?
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, what if, like, the dungeons were algorithmic or something like that? Like, there was no
You
real
mean
art
like
to
Mass
them.
Effect 1?
Dungeons were?
Yeah, it was all prefab shit.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, there you go. That's why it sucks. I also made a couple of notes. It says, how many computer-generated planets can one explore before it gets boring? I said, if it looks like a lot of this is reliant on other people competing and gathering information together, so what happens when everyone's gone? What if it doesn't catch on? How does this game play in a desolate world? So, like, what if the fan base just dies off? Then what? What does that game become? Because the whole point is that you're supposed to race to the middle with other people and, like, form clans and alliances and stuff. So if it's just one player, what fun is that? That's always the problem with online games, and I shouldn't throw that on just No Man's Sky, but that's just the problem with purely
No
online
Man's Sky
stuff.
looks really ambitious, but I'm not sure how good it's going to all mesh together.
It's starting to show that it's from like a 6-man team or something like that. It's like less than 10 people. And because everything just seems kind of surface level. It's like, yeah, there's guns and ships, but there's no like real full customization. Like planets are destructible, but they're not geomod destructible. And it's like everything just seems kind of basic. And I'd probably be more excited, except that stuff like Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen exist, which are basically like, it's unfortunate because they have all the budget in the world for that kind of thing, but it's a competition, and they have more stuff going on. So I'll probably like it a lot, I just don't know how much staying power it has.
So in an effort to rush us along a little bit faster,
Before I die.
Media
God, it's hot.
Molecule has revealed a new toolkit, I should say, because I struggle to call them like
$60 game with DLC.
Yeah.
No, it's
called
more...
and they're focusing on like dreams and the ability to make your dreams come to life.
Is that what Little Big Planet was?
They
pretty much
didn't really show enough to like. I need to actually see that in my hands before I could comment on it any further. But it looked really fascinating.
It looks like, to me, just being cynical here, it looks incredibly too ambitious for any one studio to make.
That's what I was thinking myself,
because
too.
It's like the whole idea is that it's like you can make your own game, you can compose music, you can make a movie, and it's like, but no engine is designed to do all of those things. Like Little Big Planet kind of did, but it never really worked well. And the idea that they keep pushing this, it's like, how well can you really compose music? Because there's never enough options is always the problem. Like, if you want to make a movie, it's like, well, how many camera angles do I have? If you want to make music, it's like, well, can I use the entire piano? Can I use, like, these billions of instruments that exist? And you could do animation with it and stuff, and it's like, but how rigid is that, and how complex is it? It seems like something that would be really cool to demo and something to play with, but I just don't know how long it stands as a game.
And after that, we saw Firewatch, which kind of interested me a little bit. Because,
What is Firewatch?
You were playing as a park ranger.
Listen, you probably don't know that joke, do you, from the Giant Bomb press conference last year?
No.
Where Jeff Gerstmann kept asking, what is Firewatch? And they're like, it's 1989.
And
So what's Firewatch?
someone got killed in the park.
That's what it was. We were loading up podcast as I was watching that trailer, so I couldn't hear the audio.
Someone got killed. You're the ranger. You got to help figure out what's going on, and it's like a murder mystery.
So it's like Gone Home. Walk around this
And
camp house.
you know me, I'm a sucker for murder mysteries. So I will be looking forward to hearing a bit more about this.
It has a really beautiful art style. I wonder.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I do wonder like what gameplay elements are going to be in there. Apparently, when I heard the game,
show a whole lot.
Apparently, when the game was originally demoed, there was this idea of like actually watching for fires and taking out fires. So I wonder if they just gutted that whole thing in favor of a more traditional game.
If only I could have gotten my spiritual successor to Burning Rangers.
Oh, never will.
Then
So that's the end of my Sony notes. Until Square Enix comes up.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
after that
Everything's new.
they showed Destiny. They had a new expansion of Destiny, and I didn't really pay any attention.
Called shit. I looked at it the other day. There's a new version of Destiny coming out that has all the expansions in it. So Destiny's a game.
Yeah.
I played for about 20 hours and thought, well designed, there's not enough content.
So then they showed more Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and they
the same-
showed the trailer that actually focused on the female protagonist, Evie.
How is that name spelled? Is it like Eevee the Pokemon?
Evie.
Okay.
And it was basically the male protagonist voiceover basically telling you how badass his sister is, and that he's even more badass than he is.
Because that's what we want to know.
Yeah, sure, whatever, I guess.
And then they revealed that there was going to be a PlayStation exclusive investigation side quest that you could play as either the male protagonist or the female protagonist to solve. So it'll be agnostic to whoever you want to play as. And I think they either said it was Sherlock Holmes or Jack the Ripper or something like that. Something along those
Jack
lines.
the Ripper, like, I thought they talked about, maybe that was a rumor.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Then it was Final Fantasy time.
Oh, so they're remaking Final Fantasy V.
Well, first they showed off World of Final Fantasy, which is basically Final Fantasy characters in chibi.
But that's already Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy.
Theatrum.
That game already exists, Brandon.
But yeah, they didn't really show any gameplay of it, but it looks like it's kind of Pokemon meets Final Fantasy.
Because their roster is big enough that they can support Pokemon levels.
Yeah.
Can I capture my own lightning?
Well, no, you capture the monsters and the heroes or something. You get in other means. I'm not entirely sure how, but it looked interesting, and they didn't really show enough to get any real impressions of it. But what they did show is that
Final Fantasy VII's coming to
the
PC,
Final
the
Fantasy
original version.
The Final Fantasy VII remake that people have been asking for like literally a decade now is actually happening for the PS4.
So
and probably the Xbox One, but they didn't actually confirm it.
So I want to step in here and ask a question. As someone who has played Final Fantasy for like a couple hours and said, wow, I really don't give a shit, is Final Fantasy VII overrated? Like,
yes.
I feel like in the general scope it is.
Yeah,
but like, when you really,
yes. It really is. It's a good game, don't get me wrong, but it definitely is.
So I
pretty
guess
overrated.
there's two ways to ask that, which I think the easy one is in general is it overrated, which is totally yes. But like legitimately, when it comes down to the systems and the story, like is all of it overrated? Because I feel like people say it's like one of the greatest stories ever told.
It's
in
not.
Video
I
games.
mean,
It's like
it really isn't.
maybe you were just a child when you played that game.
If you wanted to look at what Final Fantasy does on a mechanical level, that shit they've been doing since FF4. And really, the big thing that made Final Fantasy different was because they had new hardware. It was a different generation. They were able to make it look better. They were doing shit with polygons for the first time.
Because honestly, a lot of that is nostalgia. If I'm being
Yeah,
totally
like
honest.
I feel like when I talk to general gamers, they say FF7 is their favorite. Like people
I
have played
fucking
serious
hate
casually.
Sephiroth as a villain. He's a
Yeah,
fucking puss.
But I
everything-
am looking forward to seeing how they handle cross-dressing Cloud in HD.
Oh Jesus.
Gonna have its own mobile companion app. But the thing is,
I
I was gonna
can't
say
wait
is
to
that
see
when
him get cross-dressing items from bodybuilders.
I was gonna say that I feel like as far as the overrated stuff goes, that when I've talked to friends of mine who've played like every game in the series, like my friend Mike, they usually say 6, like hands down.
I'd say 6 probably myself.
Yeah.
Actually,
Like that brings my point though. That it's like people get so hype of this remake, and it's like, but does it really matter?
it was
Like,
the game that brought like non-JRPG gamers into JRPGs.
Yeah, I guess.
It was what popularized that particular genre, and for that it is important.
I just
but
feel like people evangelical.
In terms of
Evangelize.
design, it and story, it really isn't as great as people remember it to be.
Yeah, I feel like people just put that on such a higher pedestal than it really needs to be.
It only has a staying power. It does simply because it was for most people their very first JRPG.
Yeah.
Like for me, my first one was 10, so I have very vivid memories of 10 in my mind. But I understand that's mostly nostalgia.
Yeah, that was just a thought I had. Not to like bring one down. I'm sure people are excited. Like, I
Let
guess
them
I'll
have
play
their
it.
fun. Let them
Like
have their fun.
I own FF7 on PS1. It's like I guess I'll just wait for this then because I have literally no interest to go
You'll be
play
waiting
FF7
for a
right now.
fucking long time, my friend. You might as well play FF7 now.
How about no? I'd rather play. I would literally probably rather play any other Final Fantasy before 7.
Then
I
you
think
have to
part of that
swap
is
the
because-
discs.
I think part of that is because it's so overhyped that it's like I'd rather play any other one just so I don't have to deal with
Oh,
people going like,
fuck
"Oh, you
me.
play FF7?" And I was like, "No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Just please
Like,
shut up."
You,
I
you
just-
know,
But
I
let's
can't.
not
I'll just go
into-
play- I'll
Let's
just go
not
to-
fucking get into this. Let's because we have a schedule.
No,
to
let's
keep,
go.
guys.
Let's get fucking into this. Let's talk about Final Fantasy 8, 12.
Let's not get
Let's talk
fucking
about Final Fantasy
let's move
14, A Realm
on.
Reborn.
because it in the vein of trying to fulfill gamers' wet dreams, they announced the Kickstarter to Shenmue 3 live on the PlayStation stage.
You're fucking joking.
Yeah,
I'm
Shenmue
not
3 is coming.
fucking kidding.
Bullshit. I don't believe you.
Go look it up.
Look it up, bitch.
It's
I'm not
already been
kidding.
funded.
It got $2 million by the time I woke up the next morning.
So, have you seen a lot of the flack this thing has gotten on Twitter?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, and I think it's all pretty. Like I had a discussion with dude I know Stu about it, but it was pretty interesting to discuss just because this idea of like
Is
between
that the
this and
same
Blood-
Stu that's following me right now?
Stu Horvath?
Yeah.
Yeah, Unwinnable editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool guy. Talking about Shenmue last night, and it was just this weird thing where we were discussing. It's like Bloodstain, and it's kind of like it's basically just not even publishers or whatever. It's just what's the word I'm looking for? The people who give the money, investors. Just looking at that and going, okay, now we'll give you the money for this game because we don't trust you on your word.
Ryu looks ugly in this.
Yeah, he looks bad. He looks like Yakuza 3 bad.
Tell me about the
Oh,
sailors.
shit.
But it's like I've heard a lot of people are split on whether this is a good practice, a bad practice, or just indifferent. Right now, I kind of fall in the indifference camp,
Same.
but I can understand how people can get really angry about this because it's more of like the problem that Stu had was just the like the way that they're kind of tricking people with the whole save Shenmue tag.
I
It's
see
like
the
this game
pros- I
will
see
not
the pros-
exist, will never exist without Kickstarter. And it's like, but the game will exist. You have the money.
On
You
one
still have
hand,
people giving you it.
On one hand, it kind of wouldn't because without the proof of the demand, the
But
investors would never even consider
I
it.
suppose rather it's the way they hype it up as like this game cannot exist without your support, and it's like yes, but it will exist monetarily without your support. They only want your vocal support. It's hard to explain, but it's a little disingenuous to be like yes, only you can save
But
Shenmue by
yeah.
donating money.
Chris,
just-
your reaction to me unveiling Shenmue 3, that was exactly what every single person was thinking that
Yeah,
night.
like get the fuck out. Really? Like
Also,
they're
who the
gonna
fuck
give a
cares
shit
about
about
Shenmue
it
3?
now.
Of course,
So-
that literally came right after the FF7 remake announcement.
Fuck.
Can you imagine how people were feeling at the time?
They had
Fuck.
all collectively torn their clothes off and were
It's like
dancing
that,
naked.
This was like the time where like Sony had a checklist of E3 bullshit rumors and fulfilled all of them.
I think
Like-
the best tweet I saw about the conference the next day was somebody going like, "Oh hey, what happened to E3? What, the Last Guardian, FF7 remake, and Shenmue 3 are coming out? No, what really happened at E3?"
Shit.
It's like, yeah, that was kind
Like
of the
the
feeling
only
going around.
thing that could top it would be Gabe Newell just like coming out, taking the mic, going Half-Life 3, dropping on the floor, and then walking away.
That would be the only thing.
That's
Going,
literally
Half-Life 3's
the
coming
only
out
thing that
today.
could top. That's literally the only thing that could ever top what happened last night. What happened that night is like
That would be great if Gay Duels came out. It's like Half-Life 3 is coming out right now.
no,
Go
no,
buy it.
no. He would just say Half-Life 3, drop the mic, and walk off the stage.
Wouldn't have to confirm it or anything.
We
just
wouldn't have to say
Half-Life 3.
anything else. It's like how in the actual remake reveal, they didn't actually say FF7 remake. They said remake, and they had Cloud and his Buster Sword. You don't need to say FF7 at that point. We know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, it'd be great. FF7 Crisis Core remake.
It's gonna be a Crisis Core remake for the PlayStation 3, everybody! Yeah!
When it comes to like Shenmue 3,
We're
though,
gonna recut and re-edit Advent Children
But
for the
now-
PS4.
Now, just to move on.
well, I got a question. When it comes to
Sure.
Shenmue 3, so what do you do for the people who don't know what the fuck happened in the first two games?
You say, go buy a Dreamcast, motherfucker.
Go buy a Dreamcast.
Previously
and,
on Shenmue.
Yeah, go buy a Dreamcast and an OG Xbox. Then you can play the first two.
Yeah, it'd be great if they were like, previously on Shenmue, my father's dead! Now on Shenmue 3.
They pretty much have to.
That's basically the whole game, right?
Well,
I
tell me
never
about-
played it, so
well,
all I
there
know
were-
is my
there were
father's
also, There
dead.
was also that part where you're looking for sailors.
That's right. Well, there was the part you have a forklift, right?
But to move on from this,
We can never move on.
they
could never-
showed some footage of Arkham Knight, which seems strange because Arkham Knight's coming out next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why?
Oh, that's next week?
Yes.
Shit, that is. I should get some money.
And they just like the biggest thing I remember from that trailer was Commissioner Gordon, like in the monologue, talking about the death of Batman,
Yeah, they
which
did
is
that in a
probably
previous
not going to be
gameplay thing.
anywhere near as big as they're making out to be.
I believe they said that in a different trailer as well, because I remember hearing that exact line.
Although
don't
it
know.
would be
Supposedly
actually be
this is the-
ballsy to end the Arkham series by just killing off Batman, but
Yeah,
I doubt they'd ever do that.
For those who don't know, like me until very recently, this was apparently designed as a trilogy with Origins just being the stopgap. So Rocksteady has basically said this is the end of the Arkham series,
Yeah.
which is why they're hyping it up so much. I don't know. The thing is, it's kind of weird to show that just because it's like we've already seen the game played multiple times at this
And-
point.
Other than that, they just showed like, this weird footage of this random police officer getting hit with fear toxin from the Scarecrow and then just freaking the fuck out. And it didn't really seem like it mattered all that much.
Or that part where the Scarecrow became a Yellow Lantern. That was.
And
pretty
there's
cool.
also that part where the Joker's body got cremated on screen.
hot cremation action.
And that was Arkham Knight.
Okay. How many more games we got? I have to like go to bed within 24 hours.
Yeah,
have-
so do I.
Yeah.
What the fuck else is
So
there?
it's just it's fucking it's bum
You want
rush
to
this.
finish with the Sony conference, and then we can do a different episode, different day.
I mean, with Square
Yeah.
Enix, that'll be super short. I don't know about Nintendo. I didn't watch
Nintendo
it.
was like an hour long, less than that, in the conference, so we can get to that really quickly.
I think we should just try to blow through this because Square Enix I can do in like 5 minutes. Like it's whatever.
Okay. So then they announced PlayStation View. You can buy individual channels a la carte instead of doing the package
No ESPN
bullshit.
though. People pointed that out.
Done. Don't care.
Yeah.
Call of Duty happened.
Oh, the co-op campaign. They showed that off.
They also revealed that from now on, Sony will be getting the first map packs, not Microsoft.
Oh! Oh shit! That's great. Because I have a friend of mine who's a competitive COD player, bought an Xbox to get the map packs early. So I'm just gonna go up to him and be like, dude, you're so boned. Because welcome
There
to
you
the
go.
world of marketing, motherfucker. Whoever
There
has
you
more money
go.
wins.
Then they showed off Disney Infinity with the Star Wars shit.
Yep, that's the thing.
That's all I've got to say about that. And then they showed the Uncharted 4 demo.
Does it look
Sully's,
like Uncharted?
Sully's back, and the
Mm.
thing that was funny about that is that they actually had to reset the demo on stage because it froze.
Sweet.
30 frames a second.
But it's also cool because it means that they were actually playing it on the stage.
That's the thing, is I almost prefer things to lock up, because one, it's a funny story, and two, 'cause then you know 100% that they're playing it.
Yeah.
But it's funny, that's the second time that demo's fucked up, because didn't they fall through the world last year when they were
I don't
playing
remember.
it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he fell through the world at the end.
But it's Uncharted 4. You should probably watch the demo for yourself.
That's this year, right?
I don't actually remember.
Might be next year.
I think it is next year.
Okay. Whatever.
Now let's start with Nintendo.
Okay. Splatoon.
Star
Good
Fox
game.
Zero is a thing.
Does it play like the old Star Fox?
Yes, but you can also transform your R-Wing into a land-based vehicle.
So it's
That's
like
not
Star Fox
bad.
2.
Yeah, kinda.
Star Fox 2 that never existed, but apparently exists now. Sure, okay.
And then they revealed that there will be special turbocharged Donkey Kong and Bowser amiibos that you can also play in Skylanders.
Excuse me while I throw my mic out the window, because I'm so tired of this shit.
Don't care.
Tell me more about amiibos.
Then they revealed Zelda Triforce Heroes for the 3DS, which is basically a Link to the Past meets the Four Swords, except there are 3 characters instead of 4.
Okay, for a second I thought that was a Pyro Warriors thing.
And
That's
then
also coming to the 3DS.
But you can dress up your characters in different clothes.
Yes, I
And they'll
did
have
see
different
that.
powers. Like there is a very well-known image right now of Link in Zelda's dress.
Because why
Excuse me,
wouldn't there be?
Excuse me, I'm gonna go look this up real quick.
Oh shit.
Freaking Zelda's.
And
That's not what I was looking for.
then they revealed that Hyrule Warriors is coming to 3DS
Yep.
Yes,
with all the DLC from the Wii U version,
Oh god.
I would almost
and with
consider
new-
getting that, but I don't know.
and with new characters from Wind Waker joining the cast.
Yes, Tetra, and is it Wind Waker's Link as well?
I believe so.
I know one's Tetra, which is cool. I don't know, like, I kind of want to, but at the same time, it's like, I have the game! I
like
played it for like
if
100
you-
hours! I don't
You
need it
want
again!
to wreck shit on the go, then
I can wreck shit at home, or I can wreck shit on the toilet. Wreck shit all day.
Exactly. A
So
bus
then they-
trip. Or...
So then to move on, they announced Metroid Prime Federation Force for the 3DS, which is a 4-player co-op Metroid Prime game.
Okay, but it's not like Hunters, that old DS game. It
It
was like a
just- they-
multiplayer shooter.
It
Like,
basically just showed like a multiplayer co-op shooter.
Okay.
Yeah, like to where it's I don't know.
That's kind of weird, because wasn't like one of the themes of the first 2 Prime games isolation? I never
I
played
have
them.
no idea.
I don't know. Nintendo's doing something new, sure.
Moving on. Fire Emblem Fates. It's a game that exists.
More
Oh,
Fire
is
Emblem.
that is
They
that
don't-
if, or is that a different game?
No, it's a different game. And I'm not sure
Okay.
what console it's on. They didn't actually say it.
Okay.
Then they showed a trailer for Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei.
Go on.
It didn't actually show any characters from either Fire Emblem or Shin Megami Tensei.
Perfect. Just what I wanted.
So I'm not entirely sure what this game is supposed to be.
What did they show?
They showed some new characters interacting with each other in a Japanese cafe.
Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei.
And
You're
then
some
they
crazy
start putting on some armor and shit, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on right now. What is this?
This is great. Also, I was
I
gonna
don't
say
know
how
if it's like a literal like crossover or it's like a spiritual or mechanical crossover at this point.
So
I don't
it's
even
funny.
know.
I was gonna ask how that game plays, but I'm not sure you're familiar. But there's a series called Devil Survivor, and that's basically a tactical RPG, but with Shin Megami Tensei combat.
Yeah, I've
So I
heard
bet it
of
would
it,
play like that.
but I haven't played it yet. But like, I'm just not sure what they're doing with this game. I know it's coming out next year, but I don't know like
I'm just-
anything about it.
Should we assume that because these are? I would have to assume that being that they're E3, these are coming to America, because that seems like something that would almost
Yeah.
never
Yes,
come
it
here.
is. It is
I
coming to
mean-
America.
Yeah.
That just seems like the kind of thing where it's like Japan only because you Americans just don't get our insanity.
So then they announced Xenoblade Chronicles X, or I guess they re-announced because it's already
yeah,
been.
it's been out.
And it's
I know
coming
The
out.
Jap-
so
the
many-
Jap-
It's coming out December 4th.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I know
Japanese
so
version's
many
already
people-
out.
I know so many people are already so hyped for that game. That's
I need to go play the original. I
So do
still
I.
have it on my Wii.
So do
Yep.
Yeah,
So
heard it's good.
then they announced that there are now going to be Animal Crossing amiibos,
because of course.
Just,
and they're
just
and-
shoot me.
and the reason for that is that there is going to be an Animal Crossing amiibo festival game.
Of course
That's
there
literally
is.
the title. It's a board
Amiibo.
game.
Wait,
it's a-
Amiibo Festival game is the title.
no, it's literally Animal Crossing amiibo festival.
Okay.
Don't worry, Sam. It's not like you have to worry
It's
about spending any of your money on them
basically-
because you
it's
can't
basic-
find them anyway.
Ah, that's right. If I just,
I actually made a
just
Twitter
by the
about
virtue
that.
of sleeping at night, I miss out on buying every
I
amiibo.
actually tweeted that okay, it's more amiibo shit. Don't worry, guys, you won't actually use these features.
Like, that's the funniest thing about the amiibos. It's like whenever a new one comes out, it's like if you're not on there within the first hour, say if you're
Nope.
sleeping or at work or eating or showering, that's it.
Yep,
Gone.
fucking done.
It's kind of beautiful and how sad it is because I won't
And-
spend any money because I can't.
And then that is actually like the Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is actually a board game where you use amiibos.
Okay, that's at least something.
That's all I've got for that. And
Okay,
then they showed
great.
off Yoshi's Woolly World, and
Nice,
they had Yarn Yoshi amiibos that they showed off.
Yes, Rita has been getting really excited about Yarn Yoshis.
Don't worry, the 50 they showed, those are the only 50 in existence, probably.
It'll ship for like $30 and then sell for like 1,000
Yep.
within a day.
Then they showed a
God.
level 5 RPG called Yokai World.
Ooh.
Yes, I have heard about that.
They showed it last year, if memory serves. But
They-
it's basically like
Yeah, at some
Pokemon
point.
meets Ghosts in
Uh,
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah, US Gamer did an article that I thought was pretty interesting. I could give it to you, Brand. It's called Yokai World and the Muting of Japanese Culture, talking
Yeah.
about how they basically Americanized the game because we don't understand what yokai are, which
Yeah.
which the author found that pretty disappointing, and I do too, because it's like I can read, man, I can look
Yeah,
stuff up. Like I play SMT, I understand the idea
Yeah,
of Japanese
same.
demons. So that was
And-
weird, but
And then they revealed Mario and Luigi
Excuse me.
Paper Jam, which is another Paper Mario game.
so when are we getting our Wario and Waluigi
Never.
games?
I still kind of hope for that, to be honest with you.
I just want to have a move who just goes, nice look, Mr. Eyeballs.
Oh god.
Then there was a
Mr.
Mario
Eyeballs.
Tennis game, and it's a Mario Tennis game. Not much more to say
They've
about
had,
it.
I think they had one for the 3DS. Yeah, because I remember watching a
They
video
had
of
one
that.
for the Wii,
Yeah. So this
Hmm.
must be for the Wii U then.
and then they ended with Super Mario Maker, which we
Yeah,
already knew about.
I saw
Yeah.
that in Nintendo World Championships, and that totally sold me on that game. Because that game looks fucking insane.
Also, they will have for the launch of that game special 8-bit Mario amiibos.
Oh my god, Nintendo! Let me guess, there's
Uh.
like 3.5 of them.
And for
Yep.
special amiibos, if you put the amiibo on the pad, your Mario avatar in the game will transform into that amiibo. They
Hey.
showed it all for the Wii Fit Trainer.
I was just gonna say, I thought you meant for the Mario 8-bit amiibo, and I was like, but no one's ever gonna take that out of their case. Also,
Yeah,
who
we-
puts amiibos on these things? Because everyone I've ever, literally, the only people I've ever seen who own amiibos, like on camera or whatever, they never take them out of their case. And it's like, that's the very point of the amiibo is to use it! God damn it, you're the
Yeah,
worst
but
kind
it's
of
still,
person!
it still works without taking it out of the case. That's kind
Oh,
of
I
the
didn't
beauty.
know that.
Yeah, like,
Oh, it's
that's,
NFC?
That's the thing with near field communication. People did that shit
Oh,
with like
God damn it.
Skylanders and
That
Disney
is
Infinity
that
too.
is
Like,
marvelous and disgusting at the
That
same
is-
time.
Yep.
I hate it, because I like, no offense to people who are collectors, I hate the idea of keeping stuff in boxes, because it's like, it's a fucking toy, man, show it proudly outside of its case. Like, no, I want to
and
resell
I
it when I'm
forgot to
70.
mention in the Whirly World announcement, they announced that if you like use the amiibos, your Yoshi will become a skin of that character. Like if you put a Mario amiibo on the pad, then your Yoshi will become like a yarn Yoshi that looks like Mario in its color scheme.
Please tell me how terrifying that is.
yeah,
It's
that would be
terrifying.
pretty
It's
weird.
Please tell
fucking
me it just looks the
terrifying.
most like scariest shit in the
God.
world. Just like I put Mario's skin on my Yoshi.
But that's the Nintendo conference. We went through that kind of fast, but there wasn't a whole lot to
Hey,
say.
guess what? Nintendo's making games, man. I'd probably discuss it more if I saw it, but whatever. They all sound cool. Fuck amiibos. Moving
The thing
on.
with
Yep.
Nintendo is they didn't have a lot of content, but their presentation was really like gorgeous. Whereas for Square Enix, it was the exact opposite. They had
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, but the presentation was the worst thing I've ever
Zippers
seen.
and
Here.
belt buckles on everything.
So let me give you a little idea of this Midside Baseball here. I watched all these conferences today, the day of recording, using the GameSpot stream archives,
Yeah,
and their conference was apparently so bad that GameSpot didn't even bother to archive the conference, just the trailers. So like all I could see was
that
like
was the best decision.
I just looked at that and it's like, where's the conference? And then I looked up on Twitter and everybody's like, oh god, it was so bad. I was like, maybe I'm
So
not
I'm
missing
just
out.
gonna go through these in order. If you have any comments on them, make them as I go through them.
Hit the first ones, I think it is. Well, no,
Well,
mine are out
no,
of
that's
order.
the second one.
Damn it.
What do you think it is? The first one is Just Cause 3.
I'm excited, but I stopped playing Just Cause 2 because I didn't like the chaos system in order to unlock more missions. So,
And they had this whole trailer, and it was Just
yeah,
Cause.
open world
I'm
sandbox.
looking to see what it is. I'm interested to
Yeah.
see what
The
this is.
second one, which blew me out of
whatever.
the water personally, was Near 2, being developed by Platinum Games and directed by Yuko Taro.
Ooh.
which remember correctly, Yoko Taro, that is Drakengard and Nier.
That is the Drakengard guy. So this is the same
I have
guy.
to see what this
Same
is.
guy who's been doing it forever. Because funny thing is when I
Exclusive to the PlayStation 4.
fuck it, I don't care. I'll buy 2 PS4s.
I have to see
to
what
play
this
it.
is.
So the thing is that when I first saw that trailer, when I first looked at it, I was terrified when they were like, they had like programmer and artist, and I was like, oh god, if Yoko Taro's not directing this game, it's gonna be the worst thing ever. And then it was like creative director Yoko Taro, and I was like, god, yes, because it's like
Because the first thing I saw, like, oh my god, that's the Drakengard guy.
yeah.
This is going to
Yeah.
be big.
Well, I mean, he did Nier as well, and it's in the same universe.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I
it-
consider that all one thing.
yeah, it's the Drakengard universe for all intents and
And
purposes.
it is just as fucked up.
So the thing I pointed out is that Yoko Taro, well, I think he is amazing. I love his style, his characters, story, environments, and all that. The gameplay has never been good in any
No,
of its
it
games.
has not, and that's why
So,
that's where
Yeah,
Platinum
so
comes
the idea
in.
of Platinum just nailing that gameplay to a mirror shine, and Yoko Taro bringing his like perfect blend
His
of just insanity.
craziness.
Yeah, like that sounds like a match made in heaven.
It does.
Sounds
It really
beautiful.
does.
It's like
I-
it's like when Revengeance came out, and it's like, yo, Kojima and the MGS universe made by Platinum, and it was great, and it's like the same thing.
Like I am super excited now
Oh
for Nier
god,
2. I had to go
That's-
play Nier 1, and it's probably gonna
Yeah.
be excruciating, but I need to play it.
I've
now to
heard
play
it's
Nier 2.
pretty good. People
I might
recommended that
track
I
down
play
a
that. Yeah, sorry.
I might track down a copy of it.
I'm definitely considering. I was gonna buy the art book the other day. It was like $20 on Amazon. I'm considering getting the Japanese version as well, the replicant, Nier.
So then they showed off more Rise of the Tomb Raider. We already kind of
it-
said our piece
Eh.
about that.
Was it the same footage? I haven't seen it.
It was a trailer.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Then they revealed that from the makers of Hitman Go, Laura Croft Go.
What a unique title.
Okay.
Does it play like
sure.
Hitman Go?
No, it's like the way Hitman Go brought the Hitman thing to the
Like
turn-based
distilled it
iOS
to its
games.
essence? Yeah.
Yes, it's basically Laura Croft Go is basically that for
Yeah,
iOS.
which, for those who haven't played it, Hitman Go is actually pretty awesome because, like I said, it's Hitman distilled to the most basic function of Hitman, the game.
Yeah.
It's pretty great in that sense. So I
Which
should
is
be down for
weird.
that.
Yeah, because it works so well.
Yeah, it's so basic in its nature.
Then they brought out the Kingdom Hearts director, and they said by name he was the Kingdom Hearts director to show the same FF7 remake trailer from the Sony conference. The
They're like-
exact same one. So all the Kingdom Hearts fans felt cock-blocked, myself
Wow.
included.
Oh shit.
And then the same guy showed Kingdom Hearts X.
What?
You remember the shitty phone game that they're making for Kingdom Hearts in Japan? That's coming
No.
to America now.
I don't remember. I remember
'Cause
Final
we asked
Fantasy.
for
I
it.
remember Agito.
So I felt doubly cock-blocked by that. And then they decided to actually show Kingdom Hearts 3.
Okay, 'cause
Oh.
I was confused because I was like, I have notes for Kingdom Hearts 3. Did I see a separate trailer or something?
And that actually got me pretty excited.
I really, really worried that I'm gonna have no idea what's going on in that series story. Like, I'm probably gonna have to replay all the games back to
There
back.
is a game trailers recap of the entire
Yeah,
lore
I
that you
remember
should
that.
watch if you're afraid of that, because it does summarize the whole thing very
So
well.
the fun part is I remember watching that and having no idea what was going on.
My
So what I need is a game trailers retrospective for the game trailers retrospective. It
my
explains what they're explaining to me.
I can
like,
watch
my-
it with you for interactive friction.
My
Oh,
big
that'd be
thing
a fun
about
episode.
Kingdom Hearts 3, of course, is that, and while we all know, like, Tetsuya Nomura, he's really into old school Disney, rightfully so, but he has gone on record saying fucking Marvel and Star Wars is not off the table.
They confirm that Tangled's going to be in the game.
Oh, shit.
How long before Darth Vader is fighting next to Sora?
I'll tell you what, if anything else, I want to see Wreck-It Ralph.
That'd be a good
And
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be down some Ralph. So,
And since I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, I think we're going to move on from there.
yeah.
Yeah. how
They
about the-
showed the World Final Fantasy trailer, the same one from the Sony conference again.
Gotta show something, man. You filled out that venue.
And then they showed Hitman. They actually showed a gameplay video of it this time instead of just a story trailer.
Yes,
And
that's the
then,
one I saw.
then later, after the conference, they revealed that was going to come out December the 8th this year.
Cool.
So
Like
as a
Hitman.
Hitman fan, I'm really excited for that. Then they showed Star Ocean 5.
Oh, did they show gameplay
What?
of that?
No, just a trailer.
Damn it! Yeah,
But
they're
they
making another
announced
Star
that it
Ocean
was
game.
going to come exclusively to the West on the PS4. Or on the
Wait.
PS4. On the PS4, it's going to be a PS4 exclusive in the western half of the world.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, there's no way it's not coming out in Japan. That'd be
Yeah, I
really
was gonna
weird.
say, that
In
would...
Japan, it'll be multi-platform, but in America, it's going to be a PS4 exclusive.
I wonder if that's a case of, like, Sony probably offered to publish it over here, and they're like, well,
Probably.
I mean, that's fine. Like, it's kind of those things of, like, if it was an Xbox exclusive, I'd be kind of miffed, but the idea of, like, if you buy a Sony console, so with the PS4, usually you buy it for Japanese games.
Pretty
Like,
much.
you're buying it to get all the stuff from the East. You're buying it to play Nier, just to play Nier.
And then they showed Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. It's a gameplay video. It looked a lot like Deus Ex: Human Revolution did, which I'm personally okay with.
I should go see that.
And then they revealed the Illuminati's gonna be part of this game too, which if you play Deus Ex, that's not surprising at all.
Not gonna make the joke, not gonna make the joke, not gonna make the joke.
Sure.
Nope.
Then they revealed the Final Fantasy Portal app for smartphones.
Wait,
what?
is it Portal cross Final Fantasy? Gonna have Shell and Lightning hanging out in a cafe together?
Yeah, I know, right?
They didn't actually say what it was, but they said they had a Final Fantasy Portal app coming to smartphones for free.
Damn it all.
What the fuck are they doing with Final Fantasy lately?
I don't know.
And then they ended with a new JRPG project from a new studio they're making in Japan called, and I quote, Tokyo RPG Factory.
That's the name of the company?
That's the name of the development house that they made for this new RPG
So we're
project.
finally just acknowledging that game companies are just shitting out
What,
games left and
what
right.
is it with Square, like, hey, we're doing this thing, and they have nothing to show of it? It's just like, we got this idea.
I mean, they
Thank
had,
you.
and again, they had no information on this new project, but the concept art looked pretty nice.
I really don't know if that's a Square thing or a Japanese thing or something like that, because Ubisoft was pretty keen to show off basically everything they had.
And what I want to comment on is that the final presenter, that guy looks like he has not smiled in over 20 years.
Who was it? Do you know?
I don't know his name.
Was it the guy who made
I
Silent
just know
Hill?
that he had this permanent scowl on his face.
Eh,
As he was saying, we proudly, happily present this new RPG project. He has this biggest scowl on his face, and it's hilarious. But it also makes me feel really bad because he hasn't smiled in over a century.
I feel bad for people who have the
So,
inability
since I'm
to smile.
incredibly tired, how much more of this do we have?
That's
What-
it.
3
Okay,
hours.
thank God.
That is the entire press conference thingy thing that we were talking about.
Oh, holy shit.
Yep, 7 pages of notes.
So, does anyone have any final thoughts on the pressers?
I'm glad I didn't watch any of this, because I would not have had to put up with... And I say that, like, not just, you know, oh, this year was so much shitty. No, I say that I would watch these... I think I've watched these for, like, the last 4 years. I've not come away happy with any of them.
Really?
You should watch a Sony presser because it was really phenomenal.
Well, yeah, the Sony one probably would have been interesting, but like the thing is, like I'm more into after all this shit goes down and they post the important stuff up. Here's the trailers, here's this, and if like any super dumb shit happens, there's a video of that too.
And the
Yes.
worst part is, I know that when Super Best Friends and Giant Bomb post their like comments on YouTube, I'm totally gonna
Commentary.
watch those again.
Yup.
I watched theirs for Bethesda.
I ended up watching just the raw feed because that was kind of distracting for me.
Yeah.
To watch Giant Bomb
I don't know,
and Bethesda.
it is kind of funny to hear Chris say that, if only because this is the first year where I actually watched the full press conferences. I usually only watch the trailers and gameplay stuff. This time I decided to fully jump into it, and it was kind of cool for just the spectacle of it.
There is something to be said for the whole press conference thing, although I can definitely see, because I am always worn out by the end of the last press conference, especially since this one was Square Enix this year, and that was such a dull, painful conference to go through. Oh my god. It wasn't as bad as fucking, like, EA, but it was really bad.
So I guess the general question we probably should ask all of us is, how do we feel in general about the games being shown? Do we feel like it's a good year?
This was a good year, I think.
It's
I
A
feel
lot
like
of the
the
games
past
they
few
announced are
years-
coming
I feel
out.
like-
A lot
I
of the
feel like
games they announced are coming out this year.
Yeah, I just feel like just the past few years, E3 just hasn't been that interesting with a lot of sequels and such. So while we did get a lot of sequels, we got some franchise reboots. We got some more indie stuff shown. And it was just it was a good year for high budget stuff.
Yeah, I'll be glad if we just don't have a repeat of last year, which
This is Fallout 4 is coming out this year, and they just revealed it.
Yeah, that was the funny thing is that like last year was all everything's come out in 2015, and I feared that this year was going to be a lot of 2016, which
It's
was
funny
about
because
half.
Todd Howard in one of the Jeff Keighley press discussions, he was saying, "I'm getting really sick of people announcing games far too early, and that's
Yeah.
why we waited so long to announce Fallout 4."
for
I
good
mean,
reason.
we got some leaks, of course, but like we were not ready until now to show you
I
anything.
do think I could certainly say that like the announcing it and having it playable on the same day is probably bad, or even the same month. But I feel like that gap between E3 and the holiday season of that year is a really great time span
Yeah,
of just like letting people get hyped up without forgetting about it.
because you recall Skyrim took like forever after they announced it to come out.
Yeah, and you know it's just like as much as I'm excited for say like Gears 4, like if that's not until or Uncharted 4, if that's not until next holiday season, I'm probably gonna forget completely about it by that point.
Yeah,
And it's kind of nice just to be able to ride that, hype it all the way till the holiday.
it's like Kingdom Hearts 3 in development.
It'll come out
Okay.
eventually.
So I think we've talked enough about this.
I think so too.
I think I should turn my fan on.
So
Hello, everybody.
I think this has been the Texture Pop signing off.
Yes.
Yep. Hope
Later.
you guys enjoyed.